Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Issei got married with mother of Leviathan Ingvild Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more awesome content, and subscribe my channel and like this video. Go support and follow the DanzyDanz for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story, link in the description. Let's start this video. Issei fell on the first definition. Not monetary-wise, but talent-wise. A stolid underachiever who hadn't thought about his future as much as he should. Actually, he never prepared much for anything other than not being himself. Not fully himself. His high school perverted persona that was hopelessly and utterly obsessed with the lumps of meat called? Yeah, wasn't entirely a lie. He liked them as much as the next guy, but to be engrossed by them? To think they held the answers to everything? That grabbing and mushing a pair would bring him enlightenment? Maybe not. When other people or beings, heroes or legends, good or bad, people who had long and expansive collection of cool-sounding titles and epithets and more than often depressingly sad and or revoltingly sappy backstories strived to get what they wanted, to pursue their lifetime goal, to free their people, to rule the world. To get their missing fathers to finally come back home on his quest for milk only to discover he was the villain all along. All Issei wanted in life was to take it easy. Every rudimentary education level he passed with a breeze up until high school, where then he was introduced to the pinnacle of human inventions, video games with jiggle physics, anime, and movies, porno parodies included. Animated or live action, he at least learned to never judge people by their interest alone. Motohama and Matsuda were two shameless skirts chasers and degenerate peepers who happened to like animated works. Granted, the animated works they liked were essentially softcore porn. High School DxD was a popular show among preteens for obvious reasons. Not that any male students with a social life ever admitted that out loud, but that was why he valued the notorious Baldy and Scouter glasses. They never pretended to be someone they weren't, even if the entire world judged and loathed them for it. A rare breed, those two idiots were. Issei would love to have done the same, if he didn't have to worry about those devils trying to cajole him into their service and ruin his daily routine. Or that one fallen angel that thought he'd agreed to date her because she looked cute. Excuse you? In a world where every girl he met was either hot or pretty or cute or an amalgamation of those three physical qualities, external beauty had lesser impact on him. It had gotten so bad that he started to categorize them according to their bra size, information which was supplied by his dear friend Motohama. And so, his high school routine was as the following: wake up, head to school, lunchtime, get chased by a mob of angry kendo/track and field/aikido club members. The scandalous trio decided to mess with that day, go home, binge watch an entire series, or replay a beaten game or scream at some other Asian guy, most likely Korean, who kept kicking his ass in online games. Compared to most, it wasn't a routine people would feel proud about. But it was his routine, and it was a cycle that turned into a habit. An addiction his parents did not appreciate much, but tolerated nonetheless since they considered it an improvement. Better this than having a low-life degenerate who would wait in public spaces for a gust of wind to flip a skirt or two just so he could giggle and cackle like a troglodyte with his fellow troglodytes. That said, Issei wasn't downright irresponsible despite his addictions. Grades? Below average but passable. Sure, it had taken a plunge, but people like him didn't need to give a shit about high school grades unless they were aiming for elite universities. Friends? Below average. He could have gotten more popular if he ditched the M&M, but they were too fun to simply be bartered for temporary reputation and connections that wouldn't matter much anyway once he grew up. Issei had quaintly expressed his message in regards of dumping his two best mates, people who had been through hell and back with him, whilst also taking him there on a daily basis, and that's rude, please go away and kindly go yourself. He'd gained a few admirers that day. They didn't treat him much better, but at least they respected the chivalrous pervert if only for a little. Gained a slew of enemies too, but Issei didn't mind them. He didn't want fame to become him for one, and because it would be too much work. Maintaining a healthy public relation? EW. Too much problem for someone who couldn't give two shits and march on the beat of his own drums. But now that high school life had ended, and the holidays bridging the start of a new semester at yet another educational institution owned by the same megacorp who owned his last high school, the Gremery Group, were nearing their end, Issei realized one thing he should have realized long ago. He really should start thinking about his future. It came a bit late, as he was now about to set forth to his new place where he would be legally imprisoned for the next 3.5 years, a dorm in hell which had been relabeled as the underworld. Apparently, hell inspired the idea of eternal damnation which freaked out the more religious tourists, but that wasn't what mattered here. His future was at stake. "Mom, I think I'm gonna be an accountant instead." "No," Mickey Haida responded in kind, but Issei knew better not to sense the brimming wrath and annoyance behind her words. "Issei, my dear boy, you're going to Lucifash. Don't be childish now, we've already paid the tuition fee." "Well, yes, but actually, no," Issei pointed out. "The Gremmy did. I bet they're handing me free scholarships because they want to make use of me in the future. I don't want to be some corporate slave. What if they make me wear tacky uniforms?" "What did I just say not 5 seconds ago?" his mom grumbled, starting to show her real colors. Ugly colors, according to him. "You're being childish." "Well, I got it from my mother." Noticing his wife's descending patience at her offspring's snarky remarks, Gora Haida stepped in, being the more diplomatic of his tiny family. "Issei, son, you won't be a corporate slave. You can learn many things from Lucifash. Treat it simply as a stepping stone for your future." Sure, Dad. None of those renowned manipulative devils will ever try to turn me into their literal pawn. Those fallen angels won't ever try to recruit me into their sketchy organization. Those mythical heroes definitely won't try to kick my ass either because demon equals bad guys. Half demon? Doesn't matter, half bad guys are still bad guys. Demon in hell? Woof. Not to mention that uni have the rating game as their main attraction and focus, and they're gonna make me beat up girls and boys my age and applaud me for it. Yep. Thanks, Dad, my clouds of doubt have now been cleared. I knew I've always wanted to be a pit fighter. Gora sighed. Sometimes, his son could be too cynical and calculating for his own good. "Oh ho ho, shut up, brat." The former tyrant revealed a semblance of her true self. Ominous black haze emanated from her body, charring the air around her as well, granting her a fearsome visage of an archdemon in disguise. Didn't work that well on her own son, however. "We've raised you for 19 years and a half. Your father and I want to take a break from it." Fortunately, Issei wasn't the sensitive kind to take his mother's words to heart. Maybe if he was a human he would be affected more. "I've never felt so loved," and so he said, drier than a desert, with as much expression as a dead tuna. Now, Mickey, that's something you shouldn't openly say to your son." Gora placidly placed a hand on her shoulder, easing her rage as he spoke to this son of theirs. "It's never our intention to get rid of you, my boy. We want the best for you, like all parents would their child." "You're literally sending me to hell, Pops." "It's for the best," Gora said with a sheepish smile, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "Although your mother isn't entirely wrong, it's been a while since we've had the chance to spend some quality time together." Words which mellowed the once tyrannical demoness almost in an instant, sporting a tomato-red face like she just discovered the world's spiciest salsa. He figured that if he refused, his future diet might consist solely of instant noodles or plain raw meat. Issei had no clue how his very human dad managed to woo the late Dread Empress. If there was anyone in the world who deserved more respect than his mother, it was definitely his dad. Since Issei would rather not have his own parents being lovebirds in front of his two eyes, as that wasn't very nice for his stomach, he moved the discussion along. "That's great and all, but sending me to hell is, a bit much." "You'll fit right in, like a glove," his mother retorted with a mischievous glint in her eyes. "You would say that, Mom." "It up, child." Issei let out a resigned sigh. All right. I get it. You want to subtly get rid of me. What's the worst thing that can happen there anyway?" He couldn't help but feel like he might have just jinxed himself, but he shrugged it off. Surely, movie cliches and bizarre anime scenarios wouldn't apply to real life, right? Right. Little did he know. "Just don't get disappointed if I come out as some ordinary person. Like a farmer or something." Gora fixed him with a reassuring gaze. "We'll never be disappointed in you, son." Yes, bless thee well and all that mushy goodbyes," his mother chimed in, her grin growing more predatory. "Now get!" With the fond farewell from his father's warm smile, and his mother's victorious grin as she eyed Gora like she was going to devour a child, a swirling vortex of darkness consumed his vision. The next thing he knew, he had finally entered a world he had stubbornly avoided, specifically at the underworld University of Lucifash. Issei had convinced, or more appropriately, resigned himself that he was prepared to leave behind his peaceful human life and embrace whatever chaos awaited him. But acceptance didn't make the transition any easier, unfortunately. Oh well, better to roll with the punches along and see where this crazy ride took him, rather than be mopey about it. Break. Issei found himself in a situation that could only be described as a teleportation mishap of epic proportions, because he was transported into a room where he was immediately surrounded by hot babes with epic proportions. After a lightning-fast observation, which he swore was purely accidental, he deduced that he was smack dab in the middle of a changing room reserved exclusively for female occupants. These ladies appeared to be his future seniors and had apparently just finished some intense sports practice, given their glistening, sweat-covered bodies. Armed with nothing but a black Adidas duffel bag containing his own clothes, Issei came to terms with the fact that there wasn't much he could do except fully embrace his fate. And embraced it he did. Quite literally, in fact. With a wide-eyed appreciation of the marvelously shaped boobies of various sizes that surrounded him. What else should he do? Politely explain it was all a misunderstanding like a normal person. Nah, that would be far too sensible and dare he say it, boring. But his newfound scenic admiration was cut short when one of the hot babes in the room suddenly spoke up, raising the room's hostility levels to an all-time high. Well, what do we have here? She purred, her gaze turning positively predatory. A living target practice. Hold up. Issei quickly held up a finger, attempting to quell the impending storm of anger and superhuman abilities. Wait a sec, he interjected, casting an uneasy glance around the room at the now still girls. Firstly, is this Lucifash? Yes, a girl replied, her voice still a bit on the boyish side. A trap? Aha! So at least I'm in the right place, Issei exclaimed, sounding rather relieved. Evidently at the wrong spot and at the wrong time. Wait, there's no right time for a boy to me in a girl's dressing room, but anyway, although I could explain why. But let's be real here, none of you would want to hear it or even bother to listen. So, here's what I'll say instead. He pressed the palms of his hands together, as if he were at a sacred shrine, and bowed deeply. Thank you profoundly for the amazing titty buffet. Those were his last words before chaos erupted, with a dozen angry, topless females lunging at him faster than he could blink. Or rather, where he was a split second earlier. You see, blink was the very first supernatural ability his mother had taught him, an ability he'd picked up after playing a certain assassinish video game with a cool skeletonish mask and jumpy abilities. It was a cheap, reliable move that had saved his behind more times than he could count since his mother had casually tossed him off a cliff into a formation of jagged rocks next to an open ocean. Motherly love, huh? It's been a... Issei quipped as the horde of females shot him baffled glances, still simmering with anger. He placed a hand at the door handle, his escape. But I kinda have to tidy my room a bit, so with a casual peace sign, he offered his farewell. Adios amigos. The girls practically seethed as Issei bolted out of the room, making a break for it through the vast recreation center of the Lucifash Institute. He ran at a speed that was only half of what his feet could potentially carry him, all the while thinking that he might as well take in the sights of the many sport-related establishments he'd probably never visit again apart from gym class. Recalling from the brochure, he should be in the eastern district of the sprawling prestigious campus, at least a mile and a half from the central site, home to the colossal Raiding Games Stadium, and another mile from the western district, where the massive dormitories and his new abode awaited. His safe house. Only a few miles away. Speaking of which, that was also the place where his mother should have teleported him. Did he blame her for the teleportation mishap? Not really. After all, he reasoned, tits are tits. Who could argue with that? Besides, it might just get him deported without any guilt, considering it wasn't his fault in the first place. Unfortunately, that convenient reasoning for immediate expulsion only applied to normal students. Issei knew he wouldn't be treated like a run-of-the-mill student, and the idea already bothered him. Impossible for someone with his heritage to be not differently treated. The cacophonous sound of rampaging young adults trailing behind him served as a stark reminder that groveling before a pair of bewildered demons wouldn't save him from their fiery wrath. These girls were seeing nothing but red, and they were on the hunt for a viable excuse to unleash their righteous rage. Him. Their ultimate goal was to paint him red, and not in a friendly way. Issei had no desire to see his own blood splattered around. After all, dying was hardly an epic end when he had barely taken the first step of his journey in this new world. As he continued to abuse his supernatural blink ability to navigate this perilous escape, a bittersweet memory replayed itself in his mind, one from the days when he was nothing more than a perverted degenerate, before descending to the depths of NET degeneracy. Though the only difference was, back then, it was his intention to peek at anyone. This time it was an honest mistake. But really, who was he kidding? Accidents or not, he wasn't about to complain. After all, in his world, there were no mistakes, only a series of pervy little accidents. Break. Back at the girls' changing room, where most of its previous occupants had quickly dressed themselves to lay a world of pain to their falsely acclaimed wrongdoer, Akino Himejima couldn't help but titter serenely as she calmly tucked her luscious assets inside the cusps of her purple lace bra. After those 2 quiet years, our little troublemaker has finally stirred up some new trouble, and all before his first official day even began, no less, Akino mused. I wasn't informed he would be enrolled here, Rias Gremory said, a trace of annoyance in her voice, her crimson hair looking fiery even as she hooked her favorite black and red brassiere. I didn't expect him to enroll here of all places. Era? Bitter still that he refused you, Rias? Akino teased. Don't make it sound like I proposed to him, the fiery-haired youth retorted. I'm not Rainier. I only offered him a deal. My, is she in for a surprise? Akino tittered. In fact, I think many will be. The prodigal son of the Dread Empress, or so we say. Won't his arrival mean he'll soon reveal his true colors? Unambitious but still her son, and certainly not without talent. Rias was well aware of that fact. She could tell. If she was as perceptive to talent as she believed herself to be, Hayate Issei held a treasure trove of untapped potential. If only she could find a way to make him submit to her guidance, she could help him reach his potential. Who knows, maybe he's had a change of heart, Rias mused with a sly smile, already imagining the various ways he could be of use to her. This should be an entertaining year. We may have just found ourselves a cute junior. All that's left is to find a way to get him to play along nicely. Before somebody else snatches him up, no? Akino added, injecting a sense of urgency into Ria's thoughts. That's quite obvious. Aside from you, me, and probably Sona, I doubt anyone here knows who he is. It's been nearly half a century since the Empress faked her death, and our generations aren't exactly known for their thorough research, Rias remarked as her smile grew a mite wider. The smile of an opportunistic individual who recognized that an enticing opportunity lay before her, and she was already one step ahead of most of her competitors. An advantage we're unlikely to maintain for long, especially after the upcoming tests, Rias continued, pulling on her sleeveless red and white striped shirt. One thing she appreciated about her world's university was the absence of uniforms. Even the staff members were free to wear whatever they pleased, as long as it was presentable. Most of them still preferred stylish suits, though. For 2 long years she had tried and failed to persuade him. Now, with the same opportunity and the same deadline presented once more, a second chance to intertwine their fate. Rias Gremory was not known as a devil who could accept repeating past failures. Stubborn as ever, I see, Akino teased, her giggle carrying a hint of amusement. What if he simply doesn't aspire to be anything extraordinary? Maybe he likes just being him. Rias snorted dismissively. That's impossible. Someone with a mountain of potential like him must have his own ambitions to pursue, especially now that he's enrolled here. Our task now is to discover what those ambitions are. Maybe he even wants to become a king of the raiding game. Issei really did not want to be a king of anything, but Rias couldn't see that. She couldn't see it for 2 years. Akino finished buttoning up her blouse and flashed a teasing smile. Whatever you say, Bucho. Rias blushed and frowned. Please stop calling me that. It's embarrassing. Ara? Embarrassed now that you've realized you were a closet weeb all along? Akino teased, her eyes twinkling with mischief. Akino. Issei couldn't help but feel a sense of relief as he ceased his frantic blink spamming. He figured he had managed to elude the horde of furious supernaturals hot on his trail. And so he stopped spamcasting his blink. He decided it was safe to use his legs like any normal, non-disabled person would. As he strolled through the bustling campus, he couldn't help but notice the sea of handsome and beautiful college students decked out in their extravagant attire. He even spotted a bunch of students who looked like they were dressed for a high society ball, strutting around like pretentious rich twats. Except they weren't pretentious. They were simply absurdly rich. Now Issei, dressed in black track pants with the iconic 3 white vertical stripes and a blue jersey representing the Japan national football team, would typically stand out like a sore thumb. The fact that quite a few supernaturals were openly giggling or sniggering at his choice of outfit might have petrified a more self-conscious person. But Issei? He couldn't care less. There was no dress code mandated by the academy, and he was perfectly content with his casual sportswear. However, his blissful ignorance was disrupted when someone called out to him. "Hey you, the human with the blue shirt." "Oh boy, here we go," Issei thought. "I'm a human with a blue shirt," he replied nonchalantly, pausing his stride to face his potential bully. "What need have you with the person in the blue shirt?" The stranger who had called him out was big and burly. Muscular. Dark hair. A complete head taller than him, and had the tall, dark, and handsome look that many of the giggling devils seemed to sport. Unlike the snazzy attire of his peers, this devil opted for a tight-fit shirt that showcased his bulging muscles rather nicely. This guy looked like he could lift Issei upside down and shake him for loose change. "Where are you heading? Lost?" the devil inquired, towering over Issei with a curious expression. Issei maintained his poker face that had won him many games of poker and earned him the ire of jealousy from his victims. "Oh no, I'm not lost. I'm just taking a leisurely stroll through the land of the devilishly overdressed, planning to head to the dorm where hopefully I can finally chill out and not get mugged." Issei might have been intimidated if he had any reason to be, but he knew he had done nothing wrong, and he sensed absolutely no demonic power emanating from this towering devil despite the fact that the guy looked like he could crush his head with a single-hand grip. Plus, he was well aware that getting expelled from this highly prestigious educational institute for picking a fight with a mere human would be a shame these royals couldn't bear to endure. That shame wouldn't wash away no matter how many tears they shed then. "Well, good. Because I'm lost," the devil said bluntly, now surprising him as he produced a crumpled leaflet from his pocket, one of those promotional pamphlets that boasted about how awesome Lucifash University was, complete with a map of the campus. "This friggin' map I keep getting here somehow, the lost?" Devil grumbled. "Really?" Issei raised his brow, still slightly skeptical but willing to play along as he examined the map. "So it's pretty obvious that we're right here, next to this giant dome." Yeah? That's the arena, alright," the devil confirmed, both of them glancing over at the massive stadium beside them. It occupied a significant portion of the central site and was surrounded by pleasant gardens where students could hang out, perhaps even make fun of the odd ones out, like these two, to pass the time. "Okay, so what's the problem here?" "You just need to follow a sign that reads Eastern District," Issei suggested. "That's what I've been doing." "Come on, I'll just show you," the devil said, as they embarked on a noble quest to locate the elusive dormitory, with the dark sun casting its cool glow over the unnaturally purplish skies above. "Why'd you ask me anyway?" Issei asked as he swung his duffel bag onto his back. "Thought you were gonna mug me or something." "Hell, why would I do that?" the devil scoffed, letting out a snigger as they continued along the gray brick road. "Besides, you just look the most approachable." "What, I don't look rich enough?" "You didn't look preoccupied is what I was going to say, but that works too." The devil laughed chestily. "Name's Serorg, by the way. Serorg Bale." Issei didn't recognize the name or family name. All he knew was that Bale probably indicated a devil. That was about it. "Hayadu Issei." Issei Hayadu." Issei stumbled over his words for a moment. "I'm Japanese, you see. We put our family name first for some reason. Trust me, that's not the only thing that's weird on that island. They utilize everything. Including warships. Historical warships." Serorg mused. "Guess I would be Bale Serorg then." He chuckled, brushing aside Issei's last comment, which he didn't buy. "You must be pretty special, huh? A human getting into this place as an unnatural is already hard enough. You packing a sacred gear or something?" "Not that I know of," Issei replied, huffing his brown bangs. Getting a haircut was high on his to-do list, or maybe he needed a hair gel that wouldn't make his hair look like it was coated in oil. "No gears or anything sacred, just my laptop and my sacred underpants." "Oh, you mind if I call you Sai or just Bale?" You can call me Issei, not that it sounds much different anyway. Sure, whatever. Maybe not Bale, Sarorg agreed, raising an eyebrow. But you're just a human? A hume? Yep, that's me. The mom's a demon, both literally and figuratively. Can't remember her demonic name though, if you're curious. It's a full, that's all I remember. The dad's a regular human. I look more like him than my demonic mother. His genes are stronger, somehow, Issei explained, hoping he would outgrow his weird hairstyle soon. It looked horrendous on his middle-aged dad. A human with demonic powers. Sarorg hummed. That's special, all right. Yep. That's me. Issei cooed with mock enthusiasm. I'm super special. So special that I look incredibly unspecial. Sarorg chuckled at Issei's self-deprecating humor. This sarcastic human was growing on him. All right, unspecial Issei, why are you here? To solve the mysterious disappearance of Indorm, apparently. All right, smartass, you know that's not what I meant, Sarorg retorted. Issei was well aware of that fact, and he was equally sure that his next response wouldn't align with Sarorg's expectations. Well, my dear Watson, my tyrant mother sent me here so she could have undisturbed fun times with my dad without worrying about getting cock-blocked by their only son, whom they dearly love and can't stand a day without. Sarorg blinked in surprise. That was definitely not the kind of answer he had anticipated. Seems rough, he muttered. Seriously, though. What gives? Sarorg asked, trying to get a clearer understanding of Issei's situation. Other than the fact that I didn't bother choosing a uni on my own, that's really it, Issei explained. What did you expect? I want to be the king of raiding games or something? That's actually my goal, Sarorg admitted, somewhat sheepishly. That's why I've been trying to get back here for the last 2 years. Awesome, Issei replied nonchalantly, giving Sarorg a double thumbs up. Double the thumb, double the effect, which was practically nothing. Congrats on making it here. While you conquer the world of raiding games, I'm gonna go party by myself in my room with blackjack and hookers. Well, maybe not entirely by myself, technically. Sarorg burst into laughter at Issei's unexpected response. It seemed that this unspecial human had a knack for surprising him. But Sarorg couldn't believe that Issei's only goal for enrolling in the most prestigious supernatural academy was simply to have a good time. Is that really it? You've enrolled at, not just any school, but the most prestigious academy in the supernatural world, where the strongest gather to refine their skills through the raiding game, all because your mother shipped you here? You're not here to learn? To get better? To hone your skills? Not even to gather a strong peerage and compete in the Rio raiding game tournament in the future? Issei nodded firmly, his determination clear. Damn straight I did, and I'm going to enjoy every moment of the next 3 years. Sarorg couldn't believe his ears. Not even to impress anyone at all. Issei waved a dismissive hand. You waste time trying to impress all the people around you, you'd just be the most impressive dead man in the future. Sarorg stopped in his tracks, his black eyes filled with wonder as Issei continued walking ahead for a few steps. That's so bleak that it's almost impressive, Sarorg mused as he caught up, his longer strides allowing him to keep pace easily. Oh, come on, Issei scoffed. I'm just saying that I'm not someone who relies on other people to define who I am or what I am. You know who does? Them. He gestured openly toward a certain group of devils and demons. Wearing some overpriced luxury clothes among other stuff that screams I am one-dimensional and have no personality other than being rich, so I wear expensive shit to show I am rich and mingle only with equally rich peers. Sarorg blinked, taken aback by Issei's candid assessment of their peers. It was clear that this human had a unique perspective on life at Lucifash University, and he wasn't afraid to share it. I just like being me, dude, Issei continued with a nonchalant shrug. No point in becoming someone else when I already like just being myself. Sarorg pondered this for a few extra moments, and decided that to a certain extent, he could agree with the human's philosophy. There was something undeniably respectable about Issei's straightforward approach to life. Alright, now that's respectable, Sarorg conceded. And that was how Issei unwittingly gained a newfound respect from the devil rumored to be the strongest youth. As they continued their journey, they eventually arrived at a fork in the road. Oh, here's what I meant. That's the sign, right? Sarorg pointed to a holographic sign. Issei examined the sign briefly. That says dormitory alright, with the white arrow pointing at it and all. Look, it even has Eastern District in big white fonts. How did you miss it? So I should follow the arrow, which is that way, right? Serorg pointed to the right, where it would just circle around the circular central site. My brother in Christ, Issei sighed, immediately spotting the source of Serorg's problem. You might be all brawn and no brains, or you have a hilariously bad sense of direction. That sign is pointing to that road. You walk into that road, not walk past it and literally follow the arrow. Of course, you just end up circling around. Serorg scratched his head. Ah, my ass, Issei burst out laughing, clapping like a retarded seal. How many times have you been circling around the stadium again? A little bit more than 6. And it never occurred to you to, I don't know, take a different road? I did. Serorg defended, giving as much attention to the nearby onlookers as he did to his traveling companion. When I did, I ended up at the main building instead. Issei couldn't help but shake his head in amusement. It seemed that Serorg's journey to find the dormitory had been an adventure of its own. Amidst Issei's wheezing laughter, another devil swaggered over, being slightly under Serorg's height, with blonde hair and an equally suave appearance. In the devil world where everyone was effortlessly good-looking, standing out required some extra flair. However, this devil had a certain something that made him unique, a posse of devil girls who orbited around him like he was the sun. Well, what have we here? The new devil shot an unimpressed look at Sai and then towards Issei. If it isn't the powerless youth and whatever you are, or was it the strongest youth? Frankly, it's hard to tell the difference when you have about as much demonic power as a fluffy pillow, Bale. Serorg chose to maintain his calm demeanor and not dignify the insult with a response. But before he could attempt any kind of diplomatic discourse with the Phoenix, Issei decided to dive headfirst into the fray. Well, if it ain't the pimp of the century, Issei's blithely said words hit the spot like a smooth criminal, burning the rage within the Phoenix, but as well as his entourage of fawning girls. Sorry though. We're good students during the day. Well, at least I am. We're just here to find our dorm. Although, between you and me, if you happen to have a business card, I might give you a call later in the evening if I'm ever desperate for a company or two. The hell did you just call me, you little brat? And the Phoenix exploded in a fit of rage. Issei casually took a step back, feigning a hint of surprise. Oh, my bad. I mistakenly assumed you were a pimp or something since you dress like one, but I shouldn't judge a devil by his wardrobe, should I? The Phoenix seethed with anger, and before he could respond, one of his beleaguered companions tried to mediate the situation. Hold on, Riser, don't listen to the human. He's just... Shut up, Bale. I don't have time for the babblings of a talentless hack, but rest assured, I'll make him wish he never uttered those words, said the Phoenix as he beckoned his fangirls to move back a little. Ladies, if you would be so kind as to give me some space. His entourage of girls giggled and took a significant step back. In that very moment, 4 wings of the purest flame erupted behind him, flaring and raging like the wings of an immortal phoenix. Now, to put this in Issei's perspective, seeing those flames was about as terrifying as coming across a cuddly teddy bear when compared to Mickey Hayata's battle-scarred grizzly bear of a mother. Comparing Riser's intimidation factor to his mother's was like comparing the purple bear from Toy Story to the ferocious bear from The Revenant. The former might induce nervous laughter in kids, while the latter would inspire panic and nightmares in kids and adults alike as she proceeded to maul them both, starting from the kids, because that was the kind of monster Issei had as a mother. Issei couldn't help but stare at those blazing wings for a moment, his mind drifting into whimsical thoughts. He found himself pondering whether roasting something over those flames would impart a unique flavor compared to regular flames. Maybe like a yakitori, or as he put it, chicken on a stick. Speaking of which, he was very much looking forward to the free buffet. Positively salivating. Not so much at the refined restaurants though. He had little enthusiasm for the refined restaurants that served portions so minuscule they were barely a full, and their dishes were named with a seemingly endless string of words. But hey, being enrolled in such an esteemed institution did come with some undeniable perks, and he was determined to make the most of them, especially the food-related ones. In short, Issei remained unfazed, which irked Riser to no end, but earned him a silent nod of approval from Serorg, and made him leave this situation for this unique demon-human hybrid. You clearly lack the ability to recognize greatness when it's staring you in the face, Riser sneered. Uh-huh. Yeah. Sure. I'll study it later, I promise, Issei muttered, evidently not paying attention to Mr. Flammam Peacock over here, with the emphasis on cock. They really should have included a rule in the handbook for situations like this. Something along the lines of should a student find themselves in the harrowing face of an overwhelming stupidity, they are prohibited from delivering witty comebacks and must instead graciously accept it without protest, under penalty of receiving a flaming fist up their posterior. Riser tried to process his words. He couldn't. One of his girls did, apparently, as she couldn't contain her quivering giggle. Before Riser could say a confused what, Issei continued with both his hands up. Look, dude, I'd be sorry. That was purely an honest mistake, so he said, but his eyes had already shifted away from Riser to check if the road had miraculously vanished. Huh. What'd ya know, sigh, the road's still there. Maybe the dormitory will be kind enough to stay put too, huh? Serorg rolled his eyes, realizing that being friends with Issei meant he'd have to endure a steady stream of dry wit in the future. Meanwhile, Riser emblazed his arms, as though his anger was fueling his flames, and drove a burning fist right at Issei's jaw. Issei instinctively leaped to his left, anticipating the attack, but Serorg had also instinctively seized Riser's fist, halting it in mid-flight. Both of them had seen that one coming from a mile away. Serorg's hand bore the burns from the fiery grip, but he didn't show any sign of discomfort. He stood tall, a man who could grapple with grizzlies without breaking a sweat. Are you right in the head? Serorg said, his gaze unwavering under Riser's intense glare. You're willing to get expelled over spilled milk? You're better than this, Riser. Riser let out a frustrated click of his tongue and yanked his arm away, extinguishing the flames. Issei nearly failed at containing his laughter at the melodramatic display. Here was a guy who had acted all tough, tried to belittle them over a simple jest, and now he clicked his tongue. Issei couldn't help but wonder if Riser had aspirations of becoming a badly written antagonist. If so, he was off to a fantastic start. Riser wasn't finished, though. Or satisfied, so he decided to take one last jab. What are you, his mother or something? Heh, I wish. Issei responded without missing a beat, earning himself confused looks from both male devils as well as the females. You'd understand if you were raised by my mother. Yeah, I have a strange feeling telling me that I'd rather not. Serorg muttered, Let's go, Issei. We got a dorm to find. If I ever meet you in the raiding game, I will scorch you and turn you to Riser, however, continued with uninspired taunts, using the words pathetic and wimp one too many times in the same sentence. Issei was horrified. Oh God, he's monologuing. Right. Let's. Ignoring Riser's uninspired taunts, which had too many repeated pathetic and wimp in one sentence, Issei beckoned. Any longer, and I bet he's gonna say we're unworthy of his time or something of the like. Alright, time to bounce. Before Riser could reignite his flames, the Bale hauled Issei along with his bag, tossing him over his shoulder like a sack of potatoes, and sprinted towards the correct road this time, leaving a fuming Riser in the dust. Huh, this is a new way of exercising, Serorg mused aloud as he raced through the streets like a man possessed, with Issei flopping around like a ragdoll, questioning his life choices. Is this your secret to getting all those girls? I have to admit, it's effective in its own humiliating way, Issei gnomically said, rebounding off Serorg's solid back with each stride he took, waving at the increasingly bewildered bystanders they whizzed past. Oh boy, I think I'm gonna be sick. Oh hey, hot dogs. Nice. Some junk food would be a good fill for my stomach after I inevitably hurl my guts out in approximately 5 minutes, irk. Needless to say, the journey to the elusive dormitory turned into a nauseating 10-minute escapade. Break. Seeing the smooth, shiny marble floors felt like spotting land after 10 years adrift at sea. The moment Serorg gently set him down, Issei wasted no time in attempting to embrace the polished floor, mentally thanking the gods of expensive polished surfaces for their cleanliness and smoothness and stableness. You know, you could probably use this floor as a mirror if you ever run out of any, Issei mused, his cheek pressed lovingly against the flat surface. He pushed himself up with Serorg's help and continued, Thanks for the ride. Whoa, Jesus, Issei staggered, still a bit woozy from his impromptu amusement park adventure. Shouldn't say that name here. Just so you know. Right. Forgot the Nazareth bloke is this world's Voldemort. While Serorg wondered who on earth was Voldemort, and what he had to do with the Son of Christ, Issei regained his vision and balance. Issei couldn't help but take a quick gander around the dormitory lobby. As expected, everything screamed prepare to drain your bank account. Hell, the lobby alone looked more like the entrance to a solid 5-star hotel, minus the receptionist and some businessmen lounging on the couches, puffing on pretentious cigars. The businessmen weren't present, but a circle of supernatural beings occupied the couches, staring at him as though they had just stumbled upon a new specimen. All in all, it was a posh, high-class place, and Issei couldn't wait to see his room so he could either sleep, watch TV, or engage in some undisturbed wanking. What? Those tits were still vivid in his mind. Better put use to them before they vanish. Alright, thanks for the roller coaster ride. If you didn't twist my stomach, I might have considered giving you a. Alas, I'm broke, and I think I'm feeling a little queasy. No, Issei. Thank you, Serorg chuckled. You've got guts going up against one of the hottest prospects of the rating game in this entire academy. He's hot all right. Issei rubbed his stomach. The poor thing had been bashed against Serorg's jagged shoulder for far too many times. Are all hot prospects hot-headed like him? Ha! Luckily for you, he's likely the one with the shortest fuse out here. Though that's not saying much. I think you can set anyone on fire with your words alone, to be honest. I'll take that as a compliment, thank you. It is and it isn't. Serorg added. Look. I like you, alright? Why thank you? I like me so much that I'd go gay to myself if I'm not attracted to tits and asses. And thighs. Can't forget the thighs. The Holy Trinity, as it is stated in the Book of the M&M. Not in that way, you nitwit, the Bale snapped, but he couldn't help but laugh along anyway. Today, he had discovered he had a liking for sarcastically dry humor, a quality sorely lacking among the stuck-up nobles, or so he thought. I respect people like you, people who don't give a damn about others' opinions of them. But not many would think the same. Especially not in here. Well, sigh, Hitler was liked by many despite his weird choice of mustache and hairstyle, Issei replied with a smile as dry as a desert. Lucky that he didn't style his hair into something like a mullet or a slick swept-back look. Otherwise, how would the jocks style theirs? Do you always talk like this? I use sarcasm to cover my shallow personality, which has the depth of a muddy puddle of water often found at a McDonald's drive-thru. Serorg let out a loud snark, almost like a snort, but not quite. It was roughly 40% a snort, just enough to be classified as a snort rather than a huff. I'm just messing with ya, Issei quipped, unconvincingly. If I ever get into any trouble, I'll just scream your name and pray for the best and let you handle the rest. This time, he earned himself an annoyed look. Dude. Okay. I give. I'll try my damnedest to avoid individuals who have zero sense of humor. I swear, my mother just tossed me into a pit full of rabid dogs. From hell. Rabid dogs from hell. That's twice the rabid. Serorg sighed. There was a first to everything, and this was his first time to admit defeat. Just take care of yourself, alright? I have a feeling that trouble will find you one way or another. Gee, thanks. If it ever finds me, I'm gonna blame you for jinxing it. The devil shook his head, grinning as he walked down the hallway. Whatever, man. See you when I see you. Somebody watched the Ocean series. The good ones. Issei muttered. Wait, where you going? The teleporter is that way, says right there on the sign. Don't tell me I need to guide you to the goddamn lift. Or teach you how to read directional signs. I know. My room is 3005 by the way. I forgot mine, but that's the 5th room on the 30th floor, Serorg. Not the 5th room on the 3rd floor. I know. Bale said again, slinging his own duffel bag with a confident smile. I'm taking the stairs. You can find and add me to your inbox from the comms in your room. Alright then. Good luck to you, you muscle brain. There was no way he'd torture his legs by climbing all those stairs. By the gods, no. The gym existed if he ever wanted to torture any muscles in his body. As the Bale disappeared into the exit of the emergency stairs, Issei snapped out from his trance. What was my room number again, he muttered, wondering, digging the small pocket of his duffel bag for his wallet. He took out a card with sleek black and golden design, very much like a premium credit card. 666 it read. Well, isn't that convenient? Funny how he could forget such a ridiculous number. He supposed it was so absurd and foreshadowy that his mind had refused to remember something of that degree. He knew his mother had connections. He just hadn't expected those connections to grant him ownership of a room in the goddamn exclusive penthouse. Not that he was complaining. If he ever got bored or got dragged into some troubling troubles, he could just take a dip from the edge. He wouldn't die, but the impact might at least render him unconscious for a few days. Guess I'm living the high life now, he mused, shaking his head with a grin as he started making his way to room 666. The devil's in the details, and in this case, the room number. Break. Issei entered what looked like a regular elevator, but with a futuristic twist. Instead of typical buttons for selecting floors, there was a touchable screen that displayed various venue options. He watched as another student waved his card over a sensor and vanished in a flash. Curiosity piqued, Issei approached the scanner. The screen listed a plethora of venues within the dormitory, each described in tantalizing detail. Indoor and outdoor pools, state-of-the-art gyms, saunas, hot springs, bars, restaurants, karaoke rooms, and a host of other amenities filled the list. It was as if the dormitory itself was a self-contained luxury resort. For someone who was more of a social gamer and binge watcher, these social attractions might not hold much appeal. But Issei had heard rumors about the lightning-fast internet and unlimited bandwidth, making it an ideal place for his movie streaming and gaming and porning needs. He hesitated for a moment, weighing the risks of getting lost in such a sprawling facility against the lure of high-speed internet and countless entertainment options. He might be risking a missing limb for this, but to his uncertain fate, where normally he would turn away and leave, this time he said, it. He flashed his card over the small black scanner. A brilliant crimson light engulfed him, and he braced himself for whatever awaited on the other side. Issei found himself in a crimson haze, which felt like he'd been transported into a scene from a sci-fi movie. He blinked rapidly, trying to unblind himself from the magical flashbang, and made a mental note to shut his damned eyes whenever he was going to use the teleporter lest he wanted to lose his sight. The door of his metal box slid open, revealing a place that was clearly far beyond his pay grade. He almost felt bad that some hard-working heirs would kill for a chance to be in his place, but he quickly shrugged off the guilt. Nothing in life was ever fair, and dwelling on other people's misfortunes wasn't going to do him any favors. Instead, he decided to relish this undeserved luxury on behalf of the less fortunate. Perhaps in their next life, they would be born as the child of a former dread empress of the underworld empire. But this life was his, and he intended to enjoy it to the fullest. As he took his first step into the place with marvelous wooden paneling and an overall aesthetic that would make a feng shui enthusiast salivate, he was greeted by a presence. A demon. A demoness, to be specific. "Welcome to your new home, young master," she said with a graceful curtsy. Issei studied the demoness in the Victorian blue-white maid dress. She was tall, slim, buxom, and shapely, with exotic honey-brown skin. Her large yellow eyes were adorned with demonic features, and she sported a pair of black and yellow long ears resting atop her short silver-gray hair. Her demonic ears reminded him of rabbit ears in terms of height, but upon closer inspection, he realized that she also had a pair of elven ears. "Right," Issei managed to say after taking in the demoness' unique appearance. "Well, good to be welcomed. Welcome me." And used to this kind of reaction, the maid tilted her head slightly. Her cute reaction triggered an almost carnal desire in Issei, stronger than his long-dead desire of grabbing boobs. It was a kindle that quickly burned like Riser's wings, a desire to grab her bunny-like ears. Aware that she was being ogled at, the demoness straightened her posture immediately, before bowing down in a polite manner once more. "This one's name is Zest if thine ever so wished to search for a better personal aid." "All right, I gotta stop you there," Issei interrupted, putting a hand up. Zest obeyed and looked at him with worry. "Instead of going all Shakespearean on me, can't you just talk normally?" The maid froze, and once again bowed herself. "I humbly apologize for my error." "See? That is a prime example of how to not talk normally. Just talk like you talk with your friends. Such a lowly servant such as I deserves no luxury of one. I am your most humble servant, young master. I shall ensure you are given the adequate treatment for all your needs." "All right, yeah, no? No, God, no, Issei rejected, much to the maid's easily readable horror, which was obvious by her face, slowly being taken over by fright. And no, I am not going to just fire you, if that's what you're worried about. It was, and hearing that alleviated Zest's worry a little. She straightened up again, her posture rigid, but she nodded. I shall endeavor to communicate in a more conventional manner, young master. If it pleases thee, how may I assist thee further? Issei tried to find a reasonable way to handle this. He might not care about what others think about him, but that didn't mean he couldn't care about others. He figured that most low-born beings, be it devils, demons, fallen angels, yokai, aspired to be a worker of any sort in this gigantic venue. And he knew enough that they were trained to always abide by those of apparent higher birth than them, and that they were easily replaced should a student want them replaced because that was the extent of their presence here. Expendable servants. He couldn't do that. Not when he saw living beings as, well, living beings, not things. It was his main concern about joining anything remotely connected to the underworld, their tendency to dehumanize people. Or de-demonize for her case, he supposed. All right, listen here, Zest, right? Issei began, his voice softer now. First of all, I'm Hayate Issei. Hello, yes, nice to meet you. Please call me Issei. The maid broke her stupor with a flinch. It is most pleasant to be of your acquaintance, young master Issei. Issei couldn't help but sigh inwardly. He could sense the years of conditioning and servitude in her response. It pained him to see someone so subservient. But he maintained his well-practiced deadpan look. Thanks. Next time, without the young master would be great. And she bowed again, muttering something. Secondly, stop bowing at me. She raised her head, full of confusion and anxiety. But I know that's how you were trained. I get that it's how you're supposed to act around people. Just not at me. Please. He sighed. If I wanted someone to lord me or bend the knee, I wouldn't be myself. Zest tilted her head again, confused. Look, all I'm trying to say is he looked at her, saw her sullen yellow eyes as though she thought she was doing something wrong. His resolve broke then. Just get me to my room. The maid's face instantly lit up with an energetic smile. Yes. Of course. Please follow me, young master Issei. Issei, he interjected firmly. Or I see. But for a lowly servant to address young master with informality would. That was it. All right, he sighed audibly. Here's the deal. You're gonna take me to my room, help me unpack, and once that's all done and dandy away, I will teach you how to address me without all those fancy titles, and poke at your ears because I think they're cute. Zest's cheeks flushed with a soft rosy hue at the unexpected compliment. Just so we're clear, it's not you, it's me, alright? So don't blame yourself. Your young master isn't your typical young master. He's a weirdo. I understand there was a momentary pause, a glimmer of hope that perhaps he had successfully conveyed his intent. Master. Alas, it was not meant to be. It took everything within him to not palm his face. Issei restrained the urge to facepalm, finding solace in the fact that at least he had managed to shed the word young. May I carry your luggage, master? Nay, that shan't be necessary, Issei replied dryly, and Zest appeared genuinely concerned. Clearly, she hadn't quite grasped his brand of humor. I can't believe I'm turning down assistance. Just lead the way, Zest. I'll try my best not to fall behind or accidentally impale myself on a sharp object. And master, surely you wouldn't. Relax. I merely jest, Zest. I won't keep you informed about any potential self-harm endeavors. To preclude her shocked reaction, he promptly shifted the conversation. Now, let's get moving. Lead the way, please. And thank you. I'll do my best to keep my commentary to a minimum. Shutting up now. With a mix of amusement and exasperation, Issei followed Zest down the opulent hallway, ready to navigate the quirks and eccentricities of the grand penthouse that was now his new residence, feeling as if he were being led into a whimsical adventure in a penthouse straight out of a poorly written young adult romance novel. The penthouse itself was a peculiar blend of modern luxury and Victorian excess, as if someone had mashed up two completely different interior design styles and hoped for the best. Fortunately enough, it worked. Sorta. Who knows? He wouldn't. As the maid gingerly led the now shutting up young master through the spacious living room, it was as empty as the punchline of a really bad joke, probably because everyone else was either diligently attending classes or gleefully ditching them. Issei, for his part, was desperately trying to clear his mind of all the ridiculous thoughts that had taken up residence there. Thoughts like calling Serorg bail for a desperate room change or making a run for it back home to face his mother's wrath, which, at this point, sounded more appealing than whatever awaited him in this penthouse with a maid seemingly plucked from a Victorian-era drama. Zest, on the other hand, seemed to have appointed herself as Issei's personal guardian against head-on collisions with various pieces of antique decor. Her vigilance was both impressive and hilariously over the top, like a knight defending her master from invisible chandeliers and elusive vases. Perhaps, Issei mused, his time in this accursed academy wouldn't be the smooth and uneventful experience he had once foolishly imagined and dreamed. Fate had a mischievous sense of humor, and it seemed determined to turn his life into a sitcom. Fate also tended to be a bitch to anyone without discrimination. Obviously, he simply had to outbitch fate. Issei stared at his room, aghast and amused in equal measure. The bed wasn't just queen-sized, it was emperor-sized, large enough to host a family reunion he had no intention of having. The massive, crystal-clear windows provided views of the sprawling university campus that were so grand he half expected a marching band to perform outside. The floor, the walls, they were all carpeted, as if the room had been cocooned in a luxurious, sound-absorbing blanket. The air conditioning hummed along quietly, as if afraid to disrupt the sheer elegance of the place. And then there was the bathroom. Oh, of course, there was a bathroom. It was a bathroom fit for royalty, complete with a walk-in closet that could comfortably accommodate his impressive collection of 5 differently colored shirts: black, 2 reds, white, blue, 3 pairs of shorts, several comfy joggers, 1 standard midnight blue dress shirt he vowed never to wear, and a pair of formal black pants reserved exclusively for funerals. And let's not forget the random assortment of green boxer briefs, as well as the shirt and shorts he was currently wearing. This isn't a dorm, this place is a freakin' palace, Issei declared, half expecting a butler to appear and offer him a goblet of champagne. He shook his head at the ludicrous extravagance of it all. Even the plasma TV on the wall was the size of a small car and threatened to engulf the entire room. He felt like he was a Sims character, and his god just learned how to cheat. After his initial exploration, he discovered that his personal maid had been patiently waiting by the entrance of his room. However, her choice of attire was anything but conventional for a maid, or for anyone for that matter. Delectably pink provided a stark contrast against her enticing dark skin, and the room's lighting cast beguiling shadows beneath her generous bosom, turning her presence into something akin to an impromptu cabaret act. A tidy strip of light silver hair adorned the area just above her nether regions. Wait, why is she? Why are you? Issei blurted out, interrupting his own thoughts, further believing he had been inserted into a sitcom. Zest stood straight, despite her fervent pink blush. It's quite customary for young masters like yourself to make certain requests of their personal maids, master. Okay. But why are you? Issei's straightforwardness was matched only by the bafflement in his expression. Her bright yellow eyes, a shade more vibrant than a highlighter, briefly locked with his dark browns, but she quickly averted them, her voice barely above a whisper. "To thought this is what you would have wanted, master." Issei scratched his head, his confusion growing by the second. "I swear I got sent to a university, not a high-class brothel. Or maybe I'm trapped in a bizarre dream. I just can't tell if it's a dream or a nightmare," he muttered to himself before switching gears with all the subtlety of a bullhorn. "Unrelated, but what's your chest size?" 30D, master." Utilizing Motohama's encyclopedic knowledge of women's undergarments, Issei swiftly converted the American measurement to his mother tongue, his mind conjuring a vivid mental image as he gestured wildly at the empty air. "E65. Nice," he remarked, as if he were a sommelier evaluating a fine wine. Then, he shook his head vigorously, as if trying to shake off the bizarre situation unfolding before him. Meanwhile, Zest remained there, bewildered, and, well, quite unclothed. "I have kept my purity for you as well," Master Zest stammered, her voice trembling, her eyes still a mix of guilt and yearning. "This one's soul and body are yours only." Issei couldn't help but feel a pang of pride. That ego of his was swelling faster than a balloon at a kid's birthday party. But even though his junior member was practically screaming at him to take action, he somehow managed to retain his sanity. "That is your dress," Issei said dryly as he pointed at her discarded maid outfit. "Please put it on." As the perplexed and bashful Zest gingerly picked up her maid dress, Issei couldn't help but let out a bewildered monologue. "I've heard of maid service, but this is taking it to a whole new level. I mean, I wanted an unforgettable college experience, but I didn't think it would start with a shy, adorable, and utterly perplexing maid in my dorm room. This must be some sort of cosmic joke. Or maybe I should just embrace it and go with the flow. Who am I to question the universe's sense of humor?" He scratched his head again. "Normally, people wanted to bang their head against the wall after talking with me, not strip. Although just so you know, you have a wonderful body, so again, it's just me, not you. You're attractive. I'm just trying to wrap things around my head. Too many things happening all at once." Thank you, master." The demonic maid smiled as she blushed. "I am not worthy of such praise." He thought he was a patient young adult. For someone with the ripe age of 19 going on 20, his fuse was quite lengthy and fire-resistant. But all this "I am unworthy" business was starting to piss him off. "Right. New rule. If I compliment you, just smile and say thanks." "Why, yes, master. As you bid." "Good Lord, my entire dictionary and grammar are gonna be sent back to the medieval ages at this rate." Issei sighed exasperatedly, causing great concern to the gullible maid, who was still, like a lost puppy, and holding up her dress with clear confusion on what to do. "But master has his eyes trained on this one's worthless body. It is unwise of me to conceal what you wish to see, Master Issei." Issei had a silent "oh my GHD." The only thing she got right, and it had to be him taking a peek at her shapely figure. He couldn't help but take a seat. He had to take a seat. Standing was overrated, especially when the mattress proved to be notoriously soft. It was so soft that he felt the urge to sprawl on it and never rise again. This mattress was bound to become the enabler of his unhealthy lifestyle, consisting of endless movies and marathon gaming sessions. "Look, why don't we do this instead?" Issei proposed, leaning back comfortably. "Next time, instead of you guessing what I want from you, you ask me if I want you to do what you're going to do for me. And wear those clothes. Seeing you makes me cold." With a timid yes, the bashful demoness began to gingerly put on her clothes. It started with her white lace panties, the translucent fabric gliding sensually across her smooth legs. The lacy material hugged her curvy waist nicely, accentuating the curves of her body. Next came the black garter belt, which, if anything, was even more alluring. She put it on while bending down, pulling black tights over her smooth, slender chocolate legs, all the while giving him a full view of her swaying, teasing with every subtle movement. A complete contrast to her white panties. Any decent man might have offered her some privacy, but Issei was no such man. He had decided that if he was going to enjoy his university life, he might as well embrace the absurdity of the situation. If that meant enjoying this reverse striptease, then so be it. Then she put on her bra, tucking her appealing inside its black cups. The long-sleeved blue dress followed, and finally, the frilly white apron. He considered giving her for the unique show she had granted him, but that would have been beyond rude. So, he settled for expressing his appreciation. With clasped hands and a bow of the head, he said, "Thank you for the feast." Troubled and flustered, the demoness wasn't sure how to respond. She fidgeted with the frills of her apron, looking more adorable than ever. "The hell are you doing, Issei?" he muttered to himself, his internal monologue competing with his external commentary. "You have a dark-skinned lady exposing her curvaceous body to you, and you told her to put on her clothes. And I thought I was the only sane guy in this world." It was a rare occurrence for Issei to second-guess himself, especially when it implied regret for his earlier actions. Maybe he wasn't as rational as he thought, especially in the presence of a buxom demon with smooth caramel skin and a scandalously appealing pair of assets. A demon who seemed not only willing to do whatever he wanted but had no qualms about giving him her chastity with no strings attached. His closest friends would crucify him for wasting such an opportunity. So, he did what all cultured men do. He admitted he was wrong and changed his mind. Issei sat up, perched at the edge of his ginormous bed. "All right. Come here, Zest," he said plainly. "I guess my boner does want your body." "Yes." The relief that washed over her face troubled him a little bit, But Issei supposed she was happy because he finally asked her to do something for him. If she was so willing to go down that road, why should he bother overthinking it? Because he wanted to be loved? Please. In a world where he could live long enough to see the fall and rise of new civilizations, love was overrated. Shallow one-night stands that potentially left him with an empty feeling in the morning as he realized there was no kind of attachment was the real shit. Zest stood before him, nervous, but visibly happy. What do you wish of me, master? I wish you could stop speaking so formally with me, that's what, Issei responded dryly, leaving her flustered once again. Before I do anything I might regret approximately half an hour later, I do have your full consent, eh? Of course, master, everything this one can offer is yours. It is this one's highest priority to ensure master's every need is well sated, Zest replied, her words dripping with eagerness and submission. Issei swallowed hard, his throat going drier than a desert in a heatwave. She smelled nice, like a tropical fruit basket dipped in citrusy goodness. It was as if her scent was engineered to turn his stable mind into a chaotic amusement park. And I'm not forcing you against your own will? Zest shook her head, her silver bangs swaying lightly. No, master. This one is entirely devoted to master, until master decides to rid of this lowly self. And make you lose your job? Issei scoffed, as if he were the righteous protector of the working class. No. No, I don't think I will. Thank you, Master. Zest smiled, her shyness and dedication intertwining in an oddly endearing way. Oh yes, thank me for practicing basic courtesy. Issei was acutely aware of the harsh and often messed up reality he lived in, where many would do anything for the smallest favor. Still, he couldn't be bothered to be its savior. The world wouldn't change for him, but he wouldn't change for the world either. And as someone who just wanted to take it easy, there was no way he was going to pass up a free intimacy session with the gorgeous demon. First thing first then, Issei mumbled, reaching out his hand as he sealed the door with his powers. Nothing was going to cockblock him now. Not even a fiery crimson-haired heiress. Now, it was time to live out his god-tier male fantasy. Whatever I do to you, don't sound a voice. He paused. Unless I'm going too far, then go ahead and smack my head or say banana. Master? Master? Zest questioned, her confusion evident. It's the safe word, Issei explained blithely, as if he were giving a lecture on advanced calculus. If you're against what I'm doing, you say it. That's an order, all right? No buts. Zest nodded quietly. Yes. I understand. Stand in front of me, Issei instructed, his voice surprisingly steady considering the situation. She did as told, positioning herself in front of him. His face was at the height of her waist, and a nervous blush painted her dark cheeks. Lift the skirt, Issei commanded, trying to maintain an air of nonchalance. A crimson hue began to spread across her cheeks as Issei urged her to lift it higher and higher until she was holding it up by her chest, granting him an unobstructed view of her undergarments. I'm such a degenerate. Matsuda will praise me for this. Issei chuckled to himself, fully aware of the new low of his immorality. Good. Now then, remember what I told you. Zest pressed her lips tightly, her embarrassment intensifying. This was even more embarrassing than when she had been fully. Her master tucked his fingers between her garter and her panties, before tugging them down her luscious thighs. He stopped them between her knees, just as a magic circle appeared behind her, casting a blue glow throughout the room. Next time, I'm sealing the entire damn room, Issei muttered under his breath, swearing to himself that only his mother would have the power to interrupt his sessions. He released her panties and bothered not to see who had entered the room. Haida Issei, a cold, commanding voice declared. Issei imagined the person would have a very serious expression and almost no sense of humor, a perfect victim for his nonsense. I see you've gotten acquainted with your new personal maid. Darn. So you know I'm here. Issei finally showed his face from the side of Zest's thigh. As expected, the girl clad in formal clothing, a blue suit worn over a white dress shirt with the emblem of Lucifash Academy embroidered on its front pocket, stared at him with an exasperated look. Always thrilling to meet you again, Sona Payson. If there was any man who could make the studious, stoic, serious, and stolid Sona Citri crack, it would be none other than him. Hayato, Sona addressed him, her eyes narrowing dangerously. As always, you have a great economy with words, Issei quipped, unfazed by her stern demeanor. I look forward to your next syllable with great eagerness. Sarcasm. How original. Wearing fake glasses to look smart despite devils having 20/20 vision. How original, Issei shot back without missing a beat. I will forever rue the day you must appear in my life, Haida Issei, Sona muttered, her patience visibly wearing thin. Thank you? You are too kind, Issei replied with a nonchalant shrug. Both his hands were still resting on the sides of Zest's juicy thighs, who was getting flustered beyond belief as she was used as some sort of human shield. So, any reason why you have to forfeit the common sense of knocking the door of my room? Or I don't know, send me a line message or a Discord PM? Then perhaps you shouldn't have stirred trouble 5 days ahead of your first assembly, Haida. It took you 5 seconds since your first appearance to become a wanted man amongst the volleyball club, Sona explained, her stern gaze unwavering. Sweet. Always great to know there are hot girls who want me dead. No, I'm afraid it is not sweet, Sona glared, her aura one that could make most students cower in submission. Unfortunately, she was dealing with an unusual case, and it was clear to her that Issei was an unusual case that had evolved and even mutated over time that he could put a creature from Chernobyl to shame. This kind of behavior cannot be tolerated, no matter who you are. Meanwhile, Zest's lips began to tremble. Her training as a maid had not prepared her for this sort of situation. Really? Issei replied, his tone almost flat. Even though it was my mom who mistakenly teleported me here? Considering your past misconducts, not to mention your mother who once ruled the entire underworld, was one if not the greatest sorceress during her time and perhaps still is, then forgive me if I find your excuse difficult to believe, Sona retorted, maintaining her stern demeanor. Issei waved a dismissive hand. Oh, please. Even dread empresses grow old. Sona didn't loosen her glare, crossing her arms and inwardly wishing she had brought Tsubaki along with her for mental support. Look, Python. If I wanted to peep on those girls, first, nobody would have found out. Secondly, I don't want to peep. Thirdly, your shoelaces are untied. It was infuriating for Sona to realize she was wearing black loafers. They didn't have laces. Ha! Made you look. Issei couldn't help but giddily giggle like a schoolboy who had just pulled off the prank of the century. Seriously though, what I said is the truth. Except that last part. My mother TP'd me to a changing room instead of the front gates. Weird stuff, I know. It's like a scene from a cheap eroge, but it is how it is. You're free to contact my mom if you still don't believe me, though I don't think she wants to be disturbed during her quality time alone with my dad. Sona sighed loudly. Exasperatedly. She briefly closed her eyes, as if seeking divine intervention to cope with this absurd entity named Haida Issei. Dealing with him for just a few minutes felt like an eternity, and she couldn't help but wonder if this was some sort of divine punishment for her past misdeeds. She would forever miss the year when she didn't have to handle his perverted antics. Hell, she would even miss the year when she had to deal with his perverted antics compared to this sarcastic mongoloid. Honestly, Python, I know why I'm getting the special treatment. I may not be a genius like you, but I do have a brain, Issei continued, his hands still resting on Zest's thighs. He occasionally squeezed them, causing the poor maid to shiver involuntarily, though she tried her best to maintain her composure. I even have an idea as to why you went out of your way and barged into my room instead of summoning me to your quaint little office. You want to recruit me into your cool kids club so you can monitor me better if you can tolerate me. Evidently you can't. She couldn't even deny it. Sona had run out of her evil pieces, but there was always an open spot on her student executive board for hidden gems like him. Not even a reply, eh? Issei taunted with a mischievous glint in his eye. Those were just my spitballing, just so you know. Guess I'm not entirely wrong. Her eyes widened in disbelief. Did he just best her through psychological warfare? Out of all people, it had to be him to catch her off guard. Sona realized that dealing with Haida Issei was going to be even more challenging than she had anticipated, and her headaches were bound to become a regular occurrence. I'm going to believe you, Sona reluctantly conceded, her frustration carefully concealed beneath a veneer of composure. Better to yield than deal with him more. For now. I will even explain to the volleyball sport club that your convenient appearance in their changing room was caused due to a turbulence in the winds of magic to clear your name. Right. Winds of magic. Basically free mana on the air, for when you ran out of your own magical reserve. Why, thank you? So kind of you to be concerned of my reputation I clearly value the most. Sona chose to ignore that last bit and continued, consider this a welcome gift, Haida Issei. I hope that this will be the last time I must deal with you personally. Say hi for your lapdog aka Saji for me, will you? Sona responded with a final spiteful glare before disappearing from the room the same way she had arrived. Ah, sure is great to be a sarcastic, Issei mused to himself, relishing the newfound freshness in the air as he looked up to meet Zest's awkward stare. See, Zest? Your master is actually an asshole. Are you okay with sleeping together with an asshole? Zest blushed deeply and stammered, I will serve you diligently, master, no matter what. Right. Forgot you're paid to never say no. Sorry I asked, Issei sighed, his frustration giving way to a more compassionate tone. And no. This isn't against this one's will, and master. Please don't concern yourself with one of a lower caste. No, you're not from a lower caste, and no, I will always be concerned, Issei interrupted, his expression unusually annoyed. He looked at her intently. Hey. Look at me. Yes, you are my servant, or personal maid, whatever. And yes, I do know there is an unspoken understanding between the servants and their employers. In your case, me, that servants are there only to provide for me and my needs, nothing else. I don't have to make friends with you. I don't have to talk to you freely or treat you in a way that is too welcoming or warm. I will always have to maintain an emotional and mental distance from them because you are not my equals. You exist only to facilitate my life, nothing more. Issei continued, his tone firm but empathetic, I get that it's how the way things are in this world and even mine, and dehumanizing the workers around you is the only way to cope with that kind of reality. Well, frankly, I don't give a shit about that way of coping. I don't care what other people say to you, or however they brainwash you, or however you believe who you are, but between you and me, you are equal in my eyes. Yes, you do work for me, and yes, ultimately, it's hard for you to think otherwise. But I am not higher than you, and you are not lower than me. I want to befriend you, and yes, I also want to you. As I am not some heartless monster who lacks basic decency. Anyone who says I can't can kindly off. As he concluded his heartfelt speech, which was a semblance of why he despised being in this supernatural world, Issei casually looked at Zest as though he hadn't just delivered an emotional monologue. So, do you understand why I've been acting all weird whenever you belittle yourself? Issei asked, trying to gauge her reaction. Zest nodded slowly, her demeanor shifting from bashful to slightly more at ease. Will you try to at least talk casually with me? And be honest with me? And tell me about whatever it is you think I should know? Issei asked, hopeful. I will try, master, she replied, her voice still carrying a touch of shyness. Issei let out a sigh of relief. Well, at least I got you to drop your this one and that one. Then Zest twiddled with the hem of her skirt, her russet cheeks blooming red. Thank you? I am very lucky to have you as my master. He snorted at her gratitude. Don't thank me just yet. We've barely even started, he said with a huff, squeezing both her thighs again. Now then, where were we? Zest lifted her skirt again, this time with less embarrassment. As Issei was about to lower her black panties, 3 knocks from the door caused him to groan in agony. Oh, for S sake, go away, I'm dead! He yelled, realizing that the wooden door wasn't exactly soundproofed. Of course they didn't believe him. He should have stayed quiet and hoped that they had off. But as he felt the undoing of his seal, he knew that no matter what, these unrepentant interrupters have just had to interrupt him if that was the last thing they do. Mildly frustrated as his boner was inhumanely murdered, Issei lifted the panties back to cover Zest's slit, raised from his seat, and marched towards his door, which had 3 more knocks. He opened it to see the sight of his high school seniors turned university seniors. The 2 great babes that all guys in his school and probably this university dreamed of laying at least once in their entire life. Rias Gremory and Akino Himejima. Hello and goodbye, Issei declared, swiftly shutting the door in front of the 2 great temptations of Ko and Lucifash, much to their surprise. He leaned against the door, fully expecting Rias to make her grand entrance. Sure enough, the door creaked open moments later, revealing Rias with her usual confident smile. Hello again, senpai. It's great to know how you've grown from the 2 great Wanisama to the 2 greatest cockblockers in the annals of cockblockers. Issei narrated, bothering to hide his irritation through dry sarcasm and deadpan stare. To what do I owe thee of your untimely visit? Rias raised an eyebrow, feigning innocence. You were shouting. I was worried. I'm sorry. Next time, I'll try to be quiet and find a more private place. Somewhere like my room. Issei leaned against the door with an exasperated expression and folded his hands. Oh wait. This is my room. Akino couldn't help but giggle at his response. Someone learned how to be sassy. Yep. That's me. I was born by it, raised by it, molded by it. That's one way to address one's mother. She raised me with great care despite the low turnover ratio. Issei responded, and Akino giggled. Although it would take something drastic to ignite his anger, it wasn't difficult to calm him down. Another sarcastic person, for one, was a great remedy. I'm guessing if there's anyone I'm gonna live next door to in the penthouse owned by the Gremery Group, it would be its heiress and her friends. Nope, Akino hummed, just her. Eyeing Rias with the kind of look she wasn't accustomed to, Issei said with an intonation as flat as his smile. Oh joy. Rias, not easily swayed by his sarcasm, continued with her welcoming speech. Only very special people get to live here, Issei. I feel special already. Issei swiveled on his heels and walked back to his maid, who was trying to find the timing to excuse herself. Stay. Issei ordered, hiding himself behind her rump. Maybe if they can't see me, they'll go away. Rias cleared her throat, determined to make this encounter as official as possible. As the heiress of the Gremery Group, I'd like to welcome you to the underworld universe. Thank you. I feel honored to be here. It has been a great until I have to interact with people. She knew this was going to be difficult. Rias just never would reach this height of difficulty. Next to her, Akino was having the time of her life, unable to contain either her smile nor giggles. Here, senpai, let me not waste your time. No, I wasn't interested in joining your cult. And yes, I am still not interested in joining your cult. Bold of you to assume I'm here just to request you to join my peerage, Rias retorted, her patience wearing thin. Yes, because obviously you're here to congratulate my arrival. Issei quipped. Let me guess. Rainer is gonna ask me out again, and so you're asking me out first. Rias scrunched her sleek crimson brows. You think I'm affiliated with her? Before blushing. What? Asking you out? No. But honestly, you're not any different. She just took the more direct approach. Sure, she was less refined about it. Issei explained. She offers me her body and fake affection while you offer me a life of what wealth? Fame? Drowned in unlimited pussies? Not as subtle, but they're the same, really. And I take it that you don't want any of it? Rias finally managed to ask. Of course I do. I'm a man. Issei snorted. Don't get me wrong, senpai. I want all of the above. Just not at the excessive quantities you were expecting. Rias tried to process his way of thinking, trying to find a reason why he would refuse her when she was able to provide him with so much. Is this still hard for you to digest? Issei mused, as if sharing the secrets of the universe with the perplexed Rias. Here, let me simplify. Imagine I'm the kid with the bubblegum stash that everyone wants to be friends with because I've got gum for days. Rias furrowed her brows. You think people tried to recruit you simply because of your powers? Oh, I'm sure they would be ecstatic to have a self-deprecating, sarcastic twat like me as their closest ally, Issei continued. We all need a bundle of joy like I am who can lighten an entire room by presence alone. Akino giggled softly, her hand delicately covering her. She didn't get many opportunities to see Rias getting stunlocked. But wait, there's more! Issei exclaimed, leaning in from Zest's right thigh as if sharing classified information. This place, this hallowed ground of devils and demons, is where all the big shots invest their hard-earned money to pluck away budding talents like myself into their super peerages. It's a frenzy, a feeding frenzy of ambition. Picture this, people idolizing these big players, dreaming of licking their shoes, and probably having secret shrines dedicated to them. It's possible the leaders are wary of my hidden power because of my super great awesome mom's super horrible background. They sent me here to ensure I never fall into the clutches of those so-called heroic heroes who still think slaying devils and demons is a fantastic way to spend their golden years. Either that, or because the leaders are wary of my hidden power due to my super great mom's super horrible background, and wanted to warrant that I would never fall into, say, those heroic heroes who still think slaying devils and demons are a great way to spend their olden days with, which I assure you won't ever happen as long as I'm alive. Fighting takes too much effort. Which, rest assured, won't ever happen as long as I'm alive, he declared dramatically, rolling his eyes. Fighting takes way too much effort, and I have much better things to do with my time, like perfecting the art of sarcasm. Rias Gremory, with lips parted and eyes wide open, blinked in honest shock, still struggling to process how a supposed perverted idiot like him could go on a drivel that long and that accurate. Oh dear, Aquino quipped with a playful smirk, leaning closer to Rias. Caught red-handed. Yeah. That's the thing with having a brain and having to deal with the world's bullshit attempts at reeling me into their bullshit issues. Issei plodded his face into Zest's thigh, rubbing his cheek while the maid simply stood there, confused and slightly scared yet aroused. Scaroused. I know that eventually, I'll get dragged into it. No matter what I'll do, I'll have to man up and take it in the ass. But until then, all I want to do is quite literally, Netflix and chill. Yes, that kind of chilling included if you can't tell. To make a point, he squeezed his new maid's plump bottom, causing her to flinch and squeak in surprise. Rias gulped, her voice trembling as she spoke. So, all this time, you already knew? All of those actions, your perversion, your sudden shift of hobbies, those were just an act? Well, I was pretty obsessed with boobs. And butts. I like big butts, and I cannot lie, he quipped, now fully coping a feel on Zest's butt, grabbing a nice handful of her flesh as he felt her squirming. This particular action seemed to amuse Aquino. But yeah, to a point, I guess. But I really am obsessed with movies. As a matter of fact, I'm downloading the complete seasons of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It's, from a perfectly legal site. I swear I'm not always a pirate. As he stared at Rias, his expression was one of indifference. He didn't seem furious, sad, or smug about it. Instead, he looked like a young adult who had dealt with enough nonsense to no longer care about playing along with it, as he studied Rias with an almost detached curiosity. Would it help if I told you those were just speculations until you reacted to it? Her eyes widened in sudden fear. Why you, how did you? Sonapazan reacted the same way, Issei chuckled softly. It was the kind of giggle that conveyed mild amusement without breaking into full laughter. It's a great thing, you know, having everyone see you as an incompetent moron. They don't expect the perverted moron or the no-life moron to piece things together. They just get smug about their grand plans and watch the moron wobble around. But, well, the cat's out of the bag now. I'm tired of playing dumb, and I want to see how the real me fare against all of the nonsensical bullshitstorm of this world. So here I am. You and Aquino-senpai as well as Zest here are one of the few sentient beings who I think see me as who I am. And in case you're still wondering, Rias, yes. Both devils were at a complete loss for words as Issei's flat expression gave way to a growing smirk, and he uttered one of the most unsettling sentences Rias had ever heard directed toward her. I see you. 5 days had passed, 5 whole days of blissful Rias avoidance, where the most strenuous activity for Issei was deciding whether to binge-watch the latest season of Boobquake, The Voluptuous Chronicles, or explore the world of high-stakes competitive solitaire. Zest, on the other hand, had stubbornly tried to bring him his snacks and beverages, treating him like a helpless overlord in a velvet robe-clad fortress. Issei had quickly put an end to that nonsense with his immortal wisdom. As long as I have working legs, you shall not prevent me from not using them. But alas, nothing in the universe could escape the clutches of fate, not even the thrilling drama of the Korean variety. Thank the Dark Lords that it was finally over. The Grand Assembly at the Underworld University of Lucifash, Institute of the Arcane, was like the ultimate clash of the titans, with students ranging from aspiring rating gamers to potential billionaire playbas and playgirls, all gathered under one roof. It had all the bells and whistles, including an auditorium so impressive it could make a statue weep. Sirzex Lucifer might be one of the Satans, the hottest devil alive in the entire underworld, with a mesmerizing speech that could and have set flame to the hearts of the aspiring rating gamers and dropped the panties of every female beings within a 10-mile radius. But alas, for all its grandeur. Issei was as thrilled as a sloth at a sprinting competition. Sirzex Lucifer's words were meant to inspire, but they fell on Issei like a snooze button during a Monday morning alarm. That sure was something else, remarked Serorg Bale, who had apparently been caught in the whirlwind of motivation of the Crimson Satan. He had bumped into Issei on the way to the main building earlier. I'm feeling more pumped than ever. What about you, Issei? Feel any change? Issei contemplated for a moment, his face adopting the expression of a man who had just discovered that the grocery store was out of his favorite snack. Well, he began, scratching his head, I'd say I feel about as changed as a potato in a salad. You know, still a potato, just dressed up with a bit more flair. The Bale snorted, finding Issei's candidness rather amusing. Now, don't be like that. Who knows? Maybe you might just find something you want to do here. Well, I did find something I want to do here, Issei retorted in a deadpan manner, though he conveniently omitted that this something was actually someone and the do was actually did. He wasn't about to boast that he managed to get cozy with a hot tan girl who couldn't resist his charming personality and drop-dead gorgeous average look. Seriously? Serorg raised his thick masculine eyebrows as they strolled down the pristine hallway, with its luxurious red velvet carpet and opulent wall decor. Paintings, some statues here and there. Expensive stuff and the like. That's a surprise. We've just started the term, and you've already figured it out? Yep, Issei replied flatly, ignoring the glances from some senior students who had their eyes locked on the handsome Hulk by his side. I'm gonna have a game of Boners Marathon until Season 5 because the rest south ass, and then finally beat Skyrim, watch all the VTubers, surrender my worldly possessions to them, and ditch classes to see how far I can get without getting into any trouble. I should have thought as much. Hey, I'm a simple man. It's not my fault my dreams just happen to be as simple as a slice of pizza. Serorg decided that Issei was being sarcastic. Which would be most of the times he said a word. You're not being serious, right? Course I'm not. The human boy scoffed. If I don't at least try, Mom's gonna kill me. Twice. If not her, then either Sona or her legalized band of misfits. So, do you know Sona as well? Yeah. Used to be my stucco prez. Issei replied, devoid of hype. She always seemed thrilled to see me. Looked like she wants to send me to the gallows. I bet, Serorg chuckled. And what about Rias? Her? How could I not know her? I've received 5 emails, all of which made it explicitly clear that I should never be in the same room with her and that my mere presence is a cosmic mistake. The Bale could only imagine, shaking his head in mild amusement as they made their way to the next event for the freshmen, the highly anticipated entrance exam that had been lurking in the back of everyone's minds. Everyone's, that is, except for this guy here. How do you plan to approach your fight? He asked. Me, I'll just bash their face until they beg for mercy. It's your method I'm more interested in, though. Issei shot him a deadpan look. I'm glad the possibility of my public humiliation could provide you with some entertainment. Serorg chuckled. That's not what I meant. Issei let out an exaggerated sigh. Well, you see, my strategy is a top-secret technique known as don't get hit. Revolutionary, I know. I don't like getting hurt. Getting hurt. Apparently, it hurts. You're not the least bit excited about this, huh? Serorg raised an eyebrow, his amusement growing. Don't you want to show your mettle to the whole wide world? The Satans will be watching, and maybe if we're lucky, the elite peerages might attend as well. Issei scratched his head, wearing a sarcastic grin that seemed almost permanent. Oh, I'm absolutely ecstatic. Can't you tell? No. P.F. Who wouldn't relish the chance to be evaluated solely based on their ability to throw punches in front of the entire student body? Forget about personality and tactical prowess. It's all about who can land the meanest haymaker. Let's make it easier for everyone to decide who they never won on their dodgeball team. Wow. What did you eat this morning? Issei shrugged, his grin unchanging. Just a bowl of cynicism with a side of skepticism. Goes great with a glass of I don't give a damn juice. And a cereal of porn flakes. Issei muttered. Serorg would have thought he was a bitter person if not for the fact that Issei was cracking a smile himself, finding hilarity in his own joke. But then he replied genuinely. At least as genuine as a sarcastic prick like him could muster. Seriously though, it's just a slave fighting pit, only more legal and zero death. Even though I do agree with you, I still agree that it's the most efficient way. What do you expect from a world where you use power to determine social standing? True that, Issei admitted. It was why he preferred human public schools over anything otherworldly. Trying to find common sense is like trying to find hay in a needle stack. Serorg chuckled knowingly. You have a point there. But man, you look exhausted. Did you even hit the gym recently? Lift something heavy? I was grinding on Monster Hunter, and I carried my party fighting this jet of a monster, so yes, I did lift. Controllers count as dumbbells, right? Dude, you only have yourself to blame if you get your ass handed to you on the first day. Yeah. I know. On the surface, Issei maintained his nonchalant demeanor, but beneath that facade, he was desperately trying to concoct an escape plan from the impending ordeal misleadingly titled Examination Exam. It was clearly designed to separate the powerful from the ridiculously powerful, and he wasn't sure where he fell on that spectrum. Don't worry, Sai. I've watched enough anime to know that even if you're on the brink of death, a sudden power-up will save the day, Issei reassured his friend, attempting to sound confident. Plus, I've got my secret weapon. Oh? And what's that? Serorg raised an intrigued eyebrow. How many times had he raised his eyebrow today? Issei leaned in, lowering his voice conspiratorially. I've got a maid who's willing to motivate me with snacks and head pats. With that kind of support, I'm basically invincible. Serorg sniggered, expecting nothing less. His hearty pat on Issei's back nearly sent him sprawling forward. Well, in that case, you might just be onto something. Good luck, Issei. May your maid-fueled power be with you. Several minutes later, as Issei was passionately explaining to his new devil friend why a deranged scientist turning himself into a pickle was the epitome of human comedy, something collided with his chest. Or more accurately, someone collided with him. Or something close to a walking highlighter, as this someone was exceptionally pink, quite petite, and had an unusual drill-like hairstyle, wearing a very pink dress. Issei couldn't help but feel like he was stumbling into a series of encounters with eccentric individuals, particularly of the royal variety. Are you blind? Watch where you're going. The petite individual berated him in a decidedly bitchy tone. Despite her small stature, her attitude was as bright as her hair. I've heard worse pick-up lines than "Are you blind?" Believe it or not. Issei, undeterred by the initial hostility, extended a helping hand, maintaining his ever-present stoic face while Serorg snickered. Of course, she promptly swatted his hand away, embodying the spirit of a strong, independent 17-year-old girl. My bad, your pinkness. I'll make sure to install rearview mirrors on my chest for future encounters. Serorg had to firmly shut his lips and put a palm over his as Issei's dry reply nearly sent his side to orbit. What did you say? Did you say you're pink? Apologize. On the other hand, the girl glared at him, nearly igniting her flames if she didn't have to dust away her dress. I apologize, but I was practicing my human bowling technique, Issei continued in the same tone. You make a great pin, by the way. What? Before she could spontaneously combust from anger, Serorg diffused the situation by greeting her. Lady Ravel. What a pleasant surprise. Here for your brother, I assume? Ravel cast a sidelong glance at him. Oh, it's you, she muttered with all the enthusiasm of a dampened firecracker. I guess irregulars flock with irregulars. Birds of a feather. Welcome to the club, Issei said, not missing a beat, easily causing her to explode. Do not label me as your equal, she hissed, her wings flaring with fury. One hand was poised over her chest, while the other rested confidently on her hip. Don't you know who I am? I am the proud daughter of... Come on, man. We're going to be late, Issei sighed impatiently, swiftly pushing Serorg along as they left Ravel to her monologue. It was rumored that Ravel had garnered quite the following after her speech, primarily consisting of individuals with a peculiar penchant for being stepped on by a girl wearing pink heels. Is pink her favorite color, or did someone accidentally spill paint on her wardrobe? Shh, quiet man. Are you trying to piss off the entire Phoenix line? Break. 100 freshmen, consisting of skilled devils, demons, blessed humans, sacred gear wielders, vampires, demons, yokai, one unambitious snark master, and various other supernatural beings, had assembled at what was ungenerously referred to as a mess hall. Situated directly below the colossal arena upstairs, it supposedly served as a lounge for raiding game participants to engage in idle chatter or discuss their strategies in one of the available rooms. For Issei, the rooms bore an uncanny resemblance to karaoke rooms, soundproof, spacious enough for a small crowd, and a place where people could scream whatever they pleased. The only glaring omission was the lack of a karaoke machine, which Issei lamented internally. He positioned himself strategically behind the towering Serorg, whose colossal build and towering height conveniently shielded him from the scrutiny of one of the three auditors. The other two auditors had already claimed their seats, and Issei suspected they had settled their differences with a riveting game of rock-paper-scissors, with the loser assigned the unenviable task of explaining the concept of this supposedly legal slave pit to the 99 eager undergraduates, plus one apathetic snarker. But it wasn't the auditor himself that Issei was dodging. He was avoiding Sona, who happened to be standing right next to said auditor. Well. How are you all doing? The individual in question began, sporting a burgundy suit and a hairstyle that could only be described as a chaotic amalgamation of various colors. The name's Azazel. On ordinary days, I would be your professor in one of the few subjects you'll be subjected to. However, today, I've been reluctantly roped into being one of your judges. Otherwise, I'd be on the receiving end of judgmental stares from my fellow professors and quite possibly face a pay cut, which, I assure you, I cannot tolerate. A few chuckles rippled through the crowd, mainly from the female students, while the nobles responded with disdainful scoffs and snobbish grunts. Look, that's you, but older, Serorg remarked with a smirk, earning an amused nod from Issei. I suppose all of you already know why you're here. Don't worry, I won't bore you with lengthy speeches, Azazel continued, adopting a laid-back posture as he leaned against a pillar, arms crossed in a cool and chill manner. For the next 3 weeks, you'll be participating in a battle against each other. This week, it's the individual battle. As the name implies, you'll face off in one-on-one situations. A brave student from the neatly assembled crowd couldn't contain their concern and blurted out, Wait, no preparation before this? Isn't this too abrupt? Abrupt? Azazel raised an eyebrow, his smirk unchanging. What about all those days leading up to today? Those days when you could have been honing your skills instead of, say, lounging around and gossiping with your peers. The student's protest was swiftly silenced, and the rest of the crowd fell into contemplative silence. Issei leaned towards Serorg, wearing his signature sardonic grin. You hear that sigh? Luckily for you, the only way for you to lounge around is by training your ass off, huh? This time, it was Serorg who couldn't hold back a snicker. Azazel pressed on, explaining the rules further. You all start on equal footing with 5 lives, and the maximum is 10. Lose a battle, and you lose a life. Pretty straightforward, right? Win, and you not only keep your life but also claim your opponent's. Reach 0 lives, and you better pray there's someone out there weaker than you. Each life you possess is worth 10 points. Once this thrilling event concludes, the number of points you've accumulated will determine your class, be it S, A, B, C, or D. There's no E class, because this academy doesn't have time for slackers, unfortunately. Surprisingly, many of the freshmen appeared genuinely shocked by the elitist nature of the competition, much to Issei's bemusement. It seemed they hadn't quite pieced together the puzzle that explained why only a select few had advanced to the next stage. But don't worry. If you're ever running low on lives, you're allowed to pick a fight, request a duel with anyone who's willing, with the approval of the Student Executive Board, Azazel continued, his words laced with a hint of sarcasm. You can even challenge the seniors, if you're feeling particularly brave. Just a heads up, there's no surrender option, so don't even think about trying to game the system. You might end up spending your entire university life in shame, or in the infirmary, or both. And after all of this is over, what's next? One particularly assertive student piped up, asking about what came after this grueling ordeal. Azazel's reply was characteristically snarky. Why don't you focus on passing the test first, young lady? Her fellow female classmates burst into laughter while she simmered in anger. Issei couldn't see her, but her voice suggested she was quite the tough cookie, possibly another power enthusiast like Serorg. However, Issei couldn't help but feel like he'd heard her voice somewhere before. All right then. Azazel then wrapped up his speech, clapping his hands together. That's that. Your names will be displayed on the giant monitor behind me, along with your faces. When your turn comes, kindly step up to the teleporters. Don't worry, Sona and her lackeys here will guide you. If you have any questions, just ask her. Issei didn't bother to look to know she still had that piercing icy glare still. She did. Only this time she was giving the stank eye to Azazel. Do your best, fight your hardest, beat each other up, yada yada, best of luck. The world is watching. No pressure. Azazel concluded. Oh, and one last thing, the rules of engagement are simple. There are no rules. Azazel concluded with a flourish before folding into the wings of his jet-black feathers and disappearing with a dramatic burst of dark magic. Show off, one of the students muttered under their breath. He is kinda cool though. Issei wholeheartedly agreed to both of those statements. Break. The next few minutes felt like an eternity in the tensest room known to mankind. Or devilkind. Demonkind? Issei couldn't decide on the right term to encompass the gathering of unnatural beings. It seemed everyone had their own approach to dealing with pre-battle nerves. Some were desperately trying to appear cool and collected, others were fervently psyching themselves up while secretly praying they wouldn't embarrass themselves, and a few were boldly boasting about how they were going to kick some supernatural, but while their trembling hands gave them away. Issei? Issei was fine on his own table. Serorg? Serorg was busy doing push-ups on the side of the table. It was almost as if he was single-handedly warming up for the entire room. You're not gonna warm up? The muscle freak asked to him, his massive frame supported by just one index finger. I think you've worked hard enough to cover for us both. Issei said indolently, cheeks smushed on the clear white table. Man, I wish Cest is here. Oh, your personal maid? Serorg grunted, sweating, unaware that some girls were openly checking him out. That's crazy, man. Didn't think you'd get to the penthouse. Yeah, that's right. They think they can bribe me to stay with luxuries and a delightfully curvy dark-skinned woman who will listen to anything I say. He added a tactical pause. They're goddamn right. Serorg chuckled knowingly. And here I thought you would be different. All men are the same, they're attracted to something. Yours happen to be exercising. That's the thing with talentless people like me, man. Serorg grinned as he pushed himself back on his 2 feet by a simple push of his index finger. When you have no talent, grind until you do. Issei couldn't help but smile at his friend's dedication. You're probably the most stubborn, hard-working jock I've ever met, but I admire you, dude. Must be nice having a visible goal, huh? Serorg stretched his arms, inadvertently swooning another group of girls nearby. We all have a purpose, a goal in our head. Even you, he said knowingly. You just haven't found it yet. Hell, for all I know, you might already have. You're just stubbornly denying its existence. Issei scoffed dramatically and got up from his seat. Who, me? Nah. Where are you going? Serorg inquired, genuinely puzzled. Giving those girls a better view on your body. Huh. Serorg barely had time to process this before Issei strolled over to the group of admiring girls, leaving the muscle-bound Bale to ponder his words during the brief 5-second break between sets of push-ups. He decided it was probably best not to overthink it, and resumed his workout. Meanwhile, the lone Hyde ventured through the crowd, passing by various supernatural cliques. They seemed either uninterested in him, or were busy making fun of his human nature, or perhaps both. At least they didn't bother him like those phoenixes. Issei felt the need to wash his face to boost his motivation, but realized he firstly must find the damn bathroom. Hey, excuse me, do you know where the bathroom? Piss off, human. Isn't there some garbage you need to tend to? Came the dismissive response from a nearby demon. Right. Issei remembered that all of these stuck-up supernatural were very conversable. I'm sorry. I didn't know I missed you. He sauntered a few more steps, before it clicked for the demon behind him and yelled at his back, What did you say? At that point, Issei took a sharp turn into a nearby hallway where various rooms were located. He couldn't remember the exact name of these rooms, strategy room, maybe? And had a feeling he'd probably never use one. Yet, something told him he had just jinxed himself. Issei trudged along the dark green carpet, idly dragging his feet as he moved through the rooms. He felt a presence inside the room ahead of him. A devil. No, wait, a female devil. Or perhaps a human-devil hybrid? She seemed to be alone, and he hoped she wasn't in any trouble, like being pranked or stuck in the room or got lost. Despite his curiosity, he tried to mind his own business, hoping others would extend him the same courtesy. But in a world where nosiness was the norm, it was probably a foolish wish. As he approached the door to the room, his steps came to a sudden halt. Maybe it was because no peerage seemed to be utilizing these particular rooms. because he could clearly hear sounds leaking through it. It wasn't a conversation, though. It was a melody, a song. The song was enchanting, sweet, and yet tinged with an unmistakable sadness and grief, woven into its wordless tune. It whispered to his soul, reaching deep within and engulfing his entire being. Issei had never felt such a strong desire in his life, but at that moment, he couldn't resist. He had to know more. With a mixture of curiosity and fascination, he gently pushed the door open. Ah! The melody abruptly ceased as he entered the room, but Issei paid no attention to the neatly arranged chairs, the table, or the black screen, which was the Academy's high-tech version of a simple whiteboard. His gaze was locked onto her. She was stunning. All devils were, but she possessed a unique beauty. Her skin was fair and almost pearly, her lavender hair cascading like gentle ocean waves, and her innocent look was adorned with dark auburn eyes. She had a slim, delicate figure, and her pretty white dress hugged her slender form gracefully. Yet, there was a fragility about her appearance, something that neither the confident Rias nor the playful Aquino possessed. Something that might have just made his heart miss a beat for the first time in his life. Issei's nerves got the better of him as he realized he had been staring at the girl without uttering a word. He cleared his throat, trying to regain his composure. Well, I'm sorry, I thought this was the toilet. I must have spaced out. Nice voice, by the way. Big fan. Keep it up. Following his self-imposed rule of not bothering other people, despite having just broken it a few seconds earlier, Issei pulled the door along with his retreat. Please wait, the girl's voice called out from behind him. Issei froze, torn between the room and the hallway. What was going to happen next? Was he about to form an unexpected connection with this picturesque, seemingly harmless human devil? She might just be the cutest girl with the softest voice and the most innocent appearance of any devil or human he had ever met. Wait, was that supposed to be a bad thing? Yes? Issei hesitated, hovering awkwardly between the room and the hallway. I may look like a waiter, but well, actually I am. He chuckled nervously, attempting to ease the tension. Every man's a waiter for the right woman. Or the woman he thinks is the right woman. So, want a drink? Will you be my friend? Issei blinked, processing the unexpected request. Strange name for a drink. Unsure, confused, not at all accustomed to the dryness in his voice that she mistook it as a refusal, the girl worriedly clutched her dress with her gloved hand. I am sorry. Issei quickly realized his dry humor might have come across as a refusal and hastened to clarify. And I'm Issei Hayadu. Pleased to meet you. Seriously, you're the first person who doesn't want me dead within 5 seconds of meeting. Huh? She tilted her head but introduced herself, her voice soft and gentle. So remarkably soft. I'm Ingvild. Ingvild Leviathan. Issei re-entered the room and stood by the door. Correct me if I heard wrong, but did you just say you want a friend? Ingvild nodded hesitantly. My parents told me to try and befriend somebody, but everyone was rather scary. I always knew hiding in a room is a great way of making friends. Nobody believed me, unfortunately, Issei snorted, earning a puzzled look from Ingvild. Were they racist to you as well because of your human blood? Her auburn eyes widened. Why, you know? Well, it's not that hard to guess, really. They are really a bunch of jerks. And jerks be jerks. You know that I'm part human? Ingvild asked with a hint of concern, positively confused as to why he hadn't made fun of her yet. Issei returned her look with one of mild shock, a rarity in itself. Was that supposed to be a secret? My bad. Promise I'll tell no one. Not that I have anyone to tell. He already could tell Serorg wasn't someone who'd judge. Don't worry, your secret's safe with me. I'm actually part watermelon. Sure, it's a closely guarded secret. Ingvild's confusion only deepened. Watermelon? Ingvild approached him closer, having to look up at him as she was only as tall as his shoulder. Issei couldn't help but marvel at her beauty, which seemed unfairly amplified by her innocence. He found it unfair that a girl could be both cute and beautiful at the same time because he wanted to pat her head. This kind of beauty should be made illegal because it might start a world war. You're not a watermelon. Alas. Are you strong? She asked, her tone more insistent. No, I'm Issei, he said bluntly. Ingvild found herself increasingly baffled. Mr. Issei, are you a strong human? No, I'm not, and I'm just Issei. Issei's fine too, if you can tell the difference. Sweet as she was, Issei doubted she could catch up to his dry wit, as made evident by her owlish blinking. I'll tell you who's strong though. So strong that he spent hours just to be stronger. Ingvild remained puzzled. Come on, Issei urged, stepping back and gesturing for her to follow. We'll get you one more friend. My buddy Serorg is strong, friendly, and completely jocktastic. You'll love him, trust me. Forsaking his earlier intent to visit the washroom, Issei decided that helping Ingvild find some friends trumped his bladder's protests. He led his new, intriguing friend through the crowds of confident supernaturals. Ingvild was skittish as he led her through groups of confident supernatural, who had only spared snide glances at the young man. Snide glances, the kind that had bothered her earlier, now bounced harmlessly off him like rubber bullets. She noticed that none of those rude stares bothered him the way they did to her, and couldn't help but admire his seemingly effortless indifference to the judgmental gazes, feeling somewhat in awe as she trailed alongside him. Returning to their table, which had become a focal point of attention due to Serorg's head-balancing antics, Issei decided to disperse the gathering crowd with his ever-present sarcasm. You know, there's gallons of free water over there if you're that thirsty, he quipped, sending the onlookers scattering in embarrassment. Serorg opened his eyes just as the girls thronging him had scattered. Oh, Issei? You're back? The Baal swiftly went back to his feet, towering him once again. His eyes glanced at the girl standing awkwardly next to his sarcastic friend. What's this? You finally found yourself a girl that doesn't run away from you. It's a miracle, Issei replied, appreciating the fact that Serorg was stepping up his banter game. She was lounging by herself, singing. Told me she wanted friends, and specifically strong friends. So here you go. Ingvild, here's a strong friend. Serorg smirked. And I thought you don't care about anyone other than yourself. I have a thing or two for social outcasts, it seems. The young man reasoned, earning a nod of approval from the Baal. Good to know I'm a social outcast. I know, right? We can start a club or something and be bitter about the normal world, Issei quipped, feigning indignation. Besides, she's nice, I could tell. I happen to be a great judge of character. All those hours spent on games and movies have perfected my social skills. Strangely enough, I believe you, Serorg chuckled as he gave a friendly nod toward the girl. How do you do? Serorg Baal. Good to meet you. Ingvild Leviathan, the female hybrid replied, her voice soft and polite as she bowed. Very nice to meet you too, Mr. Baal. Just Serorg or Issei is fine. Really? What I said. Issei said. I'm gonna get an actual drink this time, play nice you too. Issei was about to make his grand search for the bathroom, anticipating the imminent awkwardness between Serorg and Ingvild, when the PA system crackled to life with Sona's stoic voice. The arena was a colossal stage, an amphitheater that accommodated the 10,000 spectators of noble birth in plush velvet red armchairs. Issei believed their rich asses would likely get skin irritation if they had to sit on cheap plastic seats. The arena itself was infused with magic, enclosed within a dome-like barrier that encompassed the oval stage, large enough to rival a football pitch. It had the capability to replicate any type of battlefield according to the agreed-upon terms by the participants, down to the tiniest detail. But for today, it was a simple elliptical platform with limestone slabs as its flooring. Issei imagined that falling face-first on those slabs would probably hurt, giving him a solid reason to avoid any face-planting maneuvers. The crowd erupted with whistles, cheers, and loud, obnoxious noises, mostly from his male seniors who were clearly enjoying the spectacle provided by his opponent, who seemed to revel in the attention. Coriana was undeniably striking. Blonde hair, big tits, ample curves, big tits, a pretty face, big tits, and fair, moon-like skin. And you guessed it, tidbits. She was fully aware of her allure, and with a flirtatious demeanor, she casually popped a button off her dark blue business suit, revealing more of the pink blouse underneath. As she unveiled more of her radiant skin, she declared to the world just how confident she was in her own-ness. Issei simply stood there on the opposing side, approximately 10 feet away because he, too, wanted to have a better look. The examination had technically started the moment they appeared in a flash of light, but as there were no rules forbidding him from enjoying this impromptu striptease, he figured he might as well. Her pink lipstick emphasized her lips, and her vermilion red eyes narrowed as she exuded an air of absolute confidence, convinced that she had this battle in the bag. Liking what you see? She purred. Yes, Issei replied plainly, with complete honesty. Go on. This might be a place for gladiators, but the stage is always open for strippers. She smirked, finding this encounter even easier than expected. Why don't you help me then? With a sultry flourish, she tossed aside the top of her business suit, inciting more enthusiastic, slightly inappropriate cheering from the audience. I do think that the stare don't touch rule you humans abide by is rather uninteresting. Why? Because it's common sense? Issei retorted, his sarcasm throwing her off balance for a moment. However, Coriana quickly regained her confidence and swaggered toward him, moving with deliberate elegance. Her lips curled into a sly grin as she noticed his lingering gaze on her lower half. You don't need to be coy with me, Coriana purred, now just within his reach. Issei, however, remained like the inexperienced virgin she had expected him to be, flummoxed in the presence of her beauty, flabbergasted by the close proximity of her alluring cleavage as she shed her pink blouse. Her purple bra, and the treasures it concealed, came into view, and Issei's eyes were immediately locked to her ample bosom and delightful cleavage. She extended her hand toward him, stretching her fingers and tracing circles over the red shirt covering his chest. You're quite brave. 10,000 people are staring at you, and you've yet to show a sign of stage fright. Really? I hardly noticed. She smirked like a fox. Exactly as I wanted, just focus on me. Let me personally welcome you properly into this world. His hazel brown eyes darkened the moment they met hers, and Coriana smirked in triumph. It only took one simple hypnotizing spell to secure her the first life, bringing her 10 points closer to reaching the S-class. I'm so lucky to have you, she muttered, whispering in his ear. Indeed, she considered herself fortunate to have him as her first opponent. It was almost criminal how easy this boy was to manipulate. However, if he thought she would go easy on him just because he was a pathetic human, well, he was quite right. The Andrealphus coiled around him like the serpent that had once deceived the first humans. He stood there like a puppet, and a shard of ice materialized within her hand, sharp and cold, much like her smile. She drove it through his heart, securing her victory. An easy victory. This is pathetic, Seraphal Leviathan remarked with a disdainful tone that could curdle milk into cheese. I know, right? Azazel, seated at the auditor's spot, which was conveniently located in the stadium's low middle part, closest to the stage, chimed in. You'd think it would last at least 10 minutes. Maybe an intermission or two. Though it's still a surprise, the Crimson Satan added, his eyes firmly locked on the young man from the Dread Empress's lineage. It's almost as if he didn't even bother. Like he's treating this match as an inconvenience between naps. Azazel huffed. Not every apple falls close to the tree. This one seems to have rolled down the hill and off the cliff. Ha! True. The Grigori researcher chortled. It's a rare sight to see you so standoffish, Sarah-chan. What's the matter? Got a personal vendetta against this kid too? Well, he harassed my adorable sister. The Azure Satan pouted, Seraphal's frustration taking form into a pout. Of course, I have a bone to pick with him. I'd pick his entire spine if I could. Hearing his fellow Satan's lament, Serzex gave a dry chuckle. Believe me, I understand how you feel. This led to Azazel's snort. PFT right, he's got them good, all right. Humiliating the not just one, but two Satan's little sisters and making both of them question their abilities, all within a single day. That's some top-tier mockery right there. Azazel only laughed more as he received both their glares with open arms. In all honesty, you two need to tone it down with your sibling adoration. It's like having two overprotective mothers. As if you're in any place to say that, Serzex said pointedly. You wait until your precious godchild meets him, Seraphal huffed, crossing her arms and looking every bit like the pouty sibling she was. We'll see who's laughing then. Which, by the way, will be me. I will be laughing at your face, you old relic. Azazel simply shrugged off the Satan's kiddie attempt to tarnish his dignity. After all, you can't tarnish something that doesn't exist. Good luck with that. You know, Vala. Too cool for school, that kid. There's always a way, Azazel, Serzex said, his smile taking on a slightly devious edge. Unless Vala's as apathetic as this one, there's always a way. Oh no. Don't you dare. You won't get anything if you drag that battle maniac here. Nothing, you hear? At most, you'll gain extra expenses for all the collateral damage. I can spare a few expenses if I get to see your monster bawling because this monster refuses to participate in nonsensical fights. Feeling increasingly cornered, Azazel didn't like it one bit. It should be illegal for two Satans to tag team against him. Or anyone, for that matter. Yeah, look. It's finished, he said, desperately changing the subject. That should clear your doubts enough, yes? That it has, Surzex replied, giving Azazel a knowing look. If this is the only way we can keep track of his growth, then so be it. Until we can be sure of his motives, that world can never truly be safe. And by the way, Seraphal, you really need to work on your threats. Picking his spine just doesn't have that menacing ring to it. Seraphal sighed dramatically. I guess I'll stick to ice cream and cute demons for now. Azazel, pass the popcorn. There is no popcorn. Then get one. The shard of ice pierced through his chest, targeting the area where his heart should be. The spectators anticipated his swift defeat and exit, but much to their surprise he remained there, still in her clutches, still standing, and most astoundingly, still breathing. Coriana's initial shock morphed into wariness, and she grew increasingly uncertain of the situation. Yet, her concern was short-lived as the boy, inexplicably, faded away into nothingness before her eyes. She allowed herself to smile again then, turning towards the audience to drown herself in glory. The audience cheered, hallowing her name. Andreophis! They chanted, the uproar growing as she bowed down eloquently, picking up her pink blouse smoothly, and then straightening herself to meet her admirers. But found nothing. The cheering crowds, the adoring admirers, everything had vanished. Instead, she found herself surrounded by an endless, unfathomable void. She glanced around, to her left, right, cautiously at first, but growing frantic as she found nothing but the same empty darkness waiting for her. Even the limestone floor beneath her had turned into a solid sea of black. That worry returned as fast as it had left her. Panicking, Coriana's gaze darted around the ominous darkness, her voice trembling with anxiety. What is this? Where am I? Where you are? You're in my head, remember? His voice echoed, causing Coriana to spin around in search of its source. Her chest heaved with erratic breaths as fear and confusion gripped her tightly. What was happening? He should be recovering in the infirmary right now. She should be bathing in her sweet victory. Surrounded by hailing crowds as she executed her debut fight flawlessly. Mesmerize her opponent through her seductive body and action as she lulled him into a tranquil, motionless state. Yes. I know, my head is empty and barren like my life. Although that isn't entirely true, it's more believable. Go ahead and laugh. His voice seemed to originate from all directions at once, further adding to her disorientation. She couldn't comprehend how this was possible. He must be playing some sort of trick on her. Somewhere within this abyss, he must be lurking, waiting for her reaction. Coriana knelt down, summoning a magic circle that bathed the darkness in a violet glow. With swift incantations, she conjured sharp shards of ice that erupted from the invisible ground below. If her opponent chose to hide in the shadows, then she simply had to attack every corner simultaneously. The icy shards streaked through the endless abyss in all directions, but Coriana remained on high alert, her crimson eyes scanning the dark void. She waited, and stood alert as she watched her ice crystals disappearing into the dark, and then returning in the next second. Hurtling back toward her. Her eyes widened with realization as the shards closed in. Desperation surged within her, and she hastily summoned a protective wall of ice around herself. However, her defense crumbled into vapor as the 10,000 ice shards pierced her body mercilessly. The attack tore through her brassiere, flesh, and bones, leaving behind searing pain that threatened to overwhelm her senses. It was only a matter of time before she would succumb to unconsciousness, a mercy compared to the torment she endured. The arena fell into a gravely silence as Coriana's agonized scream tore through the air. She clutched her heart in pain before collapsing onto the limestone slabs beneath her. Next to her, Issei idly watched her as she crumbled, barely moving an inch. In fact, Coriana was only about to unbutton her navy blue business shirt, activating her hypnotizing spell that he had immediately countered. Beating her at her own game. Issei couldn't lie, he did enjoy this a little. especially when he didn't have to get hurt. That was always a plus. Examinee Coriana Andreolphus is deemed unable to continue. One life granted to Haida Issei. Following Sona's robotic announcement, Coriana's motionless body then withered into fragments of light as she was automatically teleported to the infirmary, where she would spend the next hours questioning why she was in the infirmary. The audience in the stands remained perplexed, unaware of the unusual circumstances that had unfolded during the battle. Even Rias and Aquino, watching from their seats, were mystified by Issei's unexpected triumph. It seemed like he had emerged victorious without lifting a finger. Well, that was a total waste of unnecessary concern, Issei mumbled to himself, sporting a mild smile that barely qualified as a smile, or even a smirk. Issei left the arena with the same subdued reception he had received upon entering. As he was transported back to the previous mess hall, the spectators remained in stunned silence, unable to comprehend the bizarre outcome of the battle. As he faded from the arena, Issei couldn't help but ponder the idea of wearing tight clothes and performing a striptease for his next match. Then again, he realized that such a bold move might lead to his lynching or a stern visit from the formidable Sona herself. Apparently, public stripping was only acceptable if you were a certified hottie. Break. The atmosphere in the mess hall was far from welcoming as Issei returned. He could tell that everyone had been watching the giant screen behind him, and knew just as much as the live audience about his unusual victory. However, what he appreciated, oddly enough, was that no one was trying to be funny with him. Devils and demons gave him a wide berth, as if he were carrying some deadly infectious virus. Their eyes followed him as he made his way back to his seat, and he could practically feel their gazes drilling into him. Their collective attention was diverted by the next announcement that rang through the hall. Isabella Xiulan, please rise to the arena. Out of niggling curiosity, Issei glanced up at the monitor. He saw two women, one appearing older and sporting a gimmicky mask that covered one eye, while the other looked like she had just discovered Chun-Li and become an instant fangirl. No surnames. Most likely demons. Either way, it was none of his business. A smirk crept onto Issei's face as he realized that no thirsty supernatural beings were crowding around his muscular friend this time around. It was a refreshing change of pace. Quit looking at me like that, you're creeping me out, he said as he realized the Baal was staring at him the same way as the others, while Ingvild, on the other hand, she regarded him with wide-eyed admiration, as if he were some kind of hero. Issei felt sorry for anyone crazy enough to consider him a shining example of heroism. Serorg, still bewildered, stammered out, "Dude, what did you? I thought you didn't. Wait, what?" "Excuse me, I think my ears just had a seizure," Issei deadpanned, raising an eyebrow. "Ears can get seizures?" Ingvild innocently inquired. Issei's comment left Serorg utterly baffled and sent Ingvild into a perplexed state. The Baal shot Issei a judgmental "Are you kidding me?" look, a look that was no stranger to Issei. "What did you do to her?" Serorg asked, leaning forward as Issei took a seat across from him, with Ingvild scooting to make space. "I think she realized how hideous I am and got appalled that she tried to seduce me in public." Serorg sighed exasperatedly, while Ingvild struggled to comprehend a single sentence Issei had said so far. "I'm serious. Your fight is over in 10 seconds. 10 seconds. Well, Issei shrugged, I figured if I took any more time than that, I don't think you'd be able to keep count. Okay. Seriously. I'm going to hit you someday. Please don't. I'm quite fond of the ground. I'll consider it, Serorg said with a grin, at the very least amused by his sarcasm. But seriously, Issei, you've got potential. Ingvild noticed something special about you. You should use that. Issei sighed melodramatically. Why does everyone want to change me for the better? Can't they just accept that I'm a pile of human trash? Because they know you can be more than that. Serorg pointed out. Look. People are probably going to shrug off your victory as some sort of dumb luck, but I know better than that, alright? You've got talents, man. Ingvild said you sensed that she's actually part human herself, when nobody could. Hell, I couldn't until she told me. So why aren't you using it? If I didn't use it, I would be still on that stage getting laughed at. Issei replied, waving a hand. It's not that I don't want to use it, dude. I just don't want anyone making use of me. Wanting to be buddy-buddy because I have some pretty nifty stuff. Their conversation was momentarily halted as the examinees behind them cheered. Turning around, it seemed that the girl with the mask had just gutted the Chinese girl with a rather mean punch. Issei let out an empathetic oof before returning his attention to Serorg. You don't want people to rely on you? Oh God, no. I bitch enough on myself to consider getting bitched by other people, Issei said in genuine horror. Look man, I get it. I get that in a way, it's frustrating to you who work your ass off every day 24/7. But it's not my intention to put on airs or be an ungrateful vain little shit. I just refuse to completely partake in this bullshittery, and by refusing it, being an ungrateful vain little shit happens to be its unavoidable side effect. Serorg leaned back, crossing his bulging arms. And that bullshittery is? This, the lax boy replied, gesturing towards the world around him. I've been sent here for what? Pursue my dreams? Find out what my dreams are. Nah, dude. I've been sent here to complete other people's dreams or stop them from becoming nightmares. I don't want to be used. Serorg furrowed his brow, considering Issei's words. So what do you want then? To be normal? Normal? Heck no. Normal's boring, Issei sniggered. I just want people to see me for who I am, that I'm not some missing gear in the automaton that is their life goals. Basic understanding and all that jazz, you know? As the group entered a thoughtful silence, Issei added his last bit. I swear I don't have any superiority complex even though I just said all of that crap. Alright. I think I can see you better now. Serorg muttered, huffing as he did. You're a pretty complex character, aren't you? I thought you're just a lazy sack of flesh. I'm a subject matter expert at that. Haven't you heard? Serorg scoffed. Right. Although that said, Issei muttered, now with a smirk. A tired one, but a smirk nonetheless. Maybe I'm not 100% against lending a hand to the right person. I'm sure that person would be a very lucky person, Serorg said with a hint of sarcasm. What gives you that idea? You know, Issei began, I think I may have a hidden talent for serving up a dose of humility to these snobber royals. He muttered as he recalled Coriana's disarray, her eyes wide with fear and terror. There's something deeply satisfying about it, like a secret guilty. Serorg chuckled, scratching his head. So you're admitting you realized you're a sadist? Issei paused for a moment, pondering. Oh. Is that the correct term these days? Serorg laughed heartily. It's always been that way, my friend. So, what's your grand plan here, Issei? My point is, I know I won't ever ascend to the throne as a king. There's far too much work involved in handling a peerage, and honestly, I can't be bothered to pander to other people's whims all the time, Issei explained with a mischievous glint in his eye. But if I were to become someone's ahem slave, he clarified with a sly grin, I might just be down with it. I just need to find someone who won't incessantly pester me and expect me to lord them as I wipe their ass every time they take a shit. Issei paused, realizing that his use of slang might be lost on his devil companions. He almost face-bombed. Almost. What I'm trying to say is, if they've gotten my parents to conspire against me and trap me here for 3-4 years, thinking that getting me to stay here is a game, then might as well take the absolute piss out of them by playing along on my own rules. Breaking their own game and all that. Figuratively, of course. The Bayo raised an eyebrow, entertained and curious but knew better than to just be plain excited. Sounds exciting. How are you going to pull it off? Well, obviously I'm gonna have to complete watching Breaking Bad and forget about the atrocity that is the last Airbender live-action movie. That's how far I go, to be perfectly honest. Best of luck to you then. Serorg snorted. Now, back to the matter at hand. How did you manage to walk away from that fight unscathed without any witty banter? He countered her mesmerized spell, Ingvild answered matter-of-factly, still gazing at Issei with a sense of wonder in her auburn eyes. Her control over demonic magic wasn't strong enough to resist your counter, but I imagine countering her spell felt as effortless to you as flipping a light switch. Both Issei and Serorg stared at her, wide-eyed. Okay. That was not okay, Issei said, pointing a finger at Ingvild's innocent expression. You could tell? Serorg sputtered. How did you do that? Ingvild blinked innocently. Huh! Don't you feel the shift in the arcane winds? The what? He has muscle instead of a brain, so feeling arcane winds isn't exactly his forte, Issei momentarily commented. And by the way, feeling a shift in the arcane winds isn't something mundane like I saw it with my own eyes. What the hell are you doing here? A genius like you shouldn't hang around with a bunch of deadbeat idiots. Seror glared at Issei, forcing him to reword his last statement. Issei made note that deadbeat was something the Baal was not okay with. Fine. An idiot and a deadbeat idiot. The latter would be me, just to be clear. That's better, Seror chuckled. But he's got a point. If you're that sensitive to magic, why don't you consider joining the Grigori University instead? We're mostly a bunch of glory-seeking battle maniacs here. Hey, speak for yourself, Issei interjected playfully. Most of us are just glory-seeking battle maniacs. Seror corrected. Issei nodded approvingly. I mean, not to say you're wrong if you want to be a famous player in the raiding games, but just needed a clearer explanation. With a light blush on her face, Ingvild almost shrunk from the amount of attention she was getting, and used to it. My parents thought this place would help me overcome my timidity, and help me build my self-confidence, and so I can become a part of a strong peerage. Issei raised a quizzical eyebrow, looking at Ingvild as if she were a delicate rose trying to bloom in the middle of a thunderstorm filled with rabid, stuck-up poodles. Serorg, on the other hand, offered a knowing ah as if he had just deciphered a complex riddle. I see. So that's why you're so eager to meet strong guys, Serorg mused, nodding sagely. Well, I guess being part devil might not be the ideal fit at the Grigori. Why's that? Are they like super judgmental or something? No. Nothing like that. Explained Serorg to Issei. They may have a general bias that a devil cares only about their own and won't bat an eye at anything as long as their personal goal is achieved. Sounds pretty spot on. Hey. Not all of us are like that. Most of you are, though. Most devils are more into themselves than a vampire in front of a mirror, Issei retorted. I'm joking. I'm sure there are devils who are genuine philanthropists instead of personalities staler than dry yeast, do-gooders shining like beacons of not-so-evil light. Serorg playfully rolled his eyes. I can't blame you for not having the highest opinion of us. The fact is, I'm inclined to agree with you. We often put too much stock in power, and if it doesn't align with our own definition of power, we dismiss it like last week's leftovers. Issei caught a glimpse of the bitterness that seemed to color Serorg's views on his own kind but decided not to pry further at the moment. Perhaps he'd get the full story once Serorg was done pounding someone in a battle. Their conversation was interrupted by an announcement blaring through the arena speakers. Both participants are deemed unable to continue. The battle ends as a draw. Neither will have their life points deducted or added. Issei turned his body around just in time to see both girls turning to sparkly glitters. Off to the infirmary they go. Serorg raised an eyebrow, regret coloring his tone. Huh. It seemed like it could have been an intense fight. Maybe I should have watched it instead. They were both equally weak. Once again, the two males turned to Ingvild in surprise, not expecting her to chime in with such a direct assessment. Wow, Issei remarked. For a quiet person, you have a pretty sharp tongue, don't you? I do? Ingvild then stuck out her red tongue, doing her best to see any acute angle it formed. Her tongue was rather short, Issei observed. It seemed her mental capacity to grasp sarcasm was just as limited as her tongue's reach. He decided it was best not to tease her too much. He didn't want to come across as a big bully, and that wasn't an outcome he wanted when he was being an insufferable snarky prick. Serorg, on the other hand, found humor in the situation and laughed heartily. Then again, she's not wrong. If they were evenly matched, that means they're both equally weak. Ingvild nodded in agreement, though it was clear that she was still trying to wrap her head around the concept of sharp tongues. Zenobia Korda. Kuroka. Please rise to the arena. The announcement caught Issei's attention, and he couldn't help but make a face. Zenobia? What kind of name is Zenobia? Turning around, he faced the next pair of gladiators. One of them wore a strange, predominantly black, skin-tight suit that hugged her body, almost resembling a swimsuit. Issei couldn't deny that it piqued his interest. The other fighter was a bit more unusual. Woot! Catgirls, Issei said, a little bit excited. Bit-titty catgirls wearing a kimono with a ridiculously impossibly low neckline. Double woot. Isn't that what she is? Issei replied, pointing at the cat-like girl. That's a nekasha, Ingvild corrected in vain. I stand corrected. For once, Issei paid attention to the fight. Both the Leviathan and Bale did the same as they observed from the giant monitor. Ingvild made a comment that the oversized sword the Zenobia girl had just pulled out of some interdimensional storage was actually a holy sword, which surprised Issei, but not in the way the devils expected. Really? Holy sword? That or? That looks more like a shiny paddle to me. What is that? Cloud's Buster Blade 2.0? The hell was the blacksmith thinking? Oh, because you're an expert of swords now as well. Serorg muttered. And who the hell is Cloud? Because this world is fantasy. Serorg countered. And who knows? Maybe she can actually use it to slay bigger enemies. You can never know how long this peace will last. After a moment of contemplation, watching how surprisingly light that giant sword looked in that girl's hand, Issei modified his opinion. All right. I'll give you that. The unusual trio, along with the rest of the examinee, all watched the ongoing fight, making their own comments and smirking their smug smirks as they thought they could do better than just leaping here and there. The Nekisha is strong, Ingvild muttered, contrary to the popular belief that Kuroka was struggling. She isn't taking her seriously. Serorg agreed with a nod, his massive arms crossed, causing his muscles to bulge and several girls to swoon. That's not hard to see. She's only going to tire herself out at this rate. And tire herself out Zenobia did. After using her holy sword as a support to stand, Kuroka seemed blissfully relaxed, almost as if she were reclining on an invisible mattress, with one of her legs provocatively exposed through the slit of her black kimono. Are you done yet, Nyan? Can I have a go now? Kuroka taunted, using the kind of condescending tone that preceded an epic beatdown. And Issei found himself smirking, not only because he had just heard someone say Nyan for the first time, but because Kuroka had delivered the classic "Is that all you've got?" line. And Issei thoroughly enjoyed it. Zenobia wiped sweat from her chin just before both her wrists were ensnared by dark violet lights. The same binding spell ensnared her ankles, suspending her in the air as she struggled to free herself. Senjutsu and Yujutsu. Ingvild beamed with delight. I didn't expect to see its practitioners so soon. Don't get me wrong, Nyan, Kuroka purred as she floated closer to Zenobia, stopping to cup her chin and flash a sly smile. You're not bad. I'm just objectively better. Zenobia gritted her teeth as Kuroka floated away, launching an onslaught of magic bullets that shredded her outfit, skin, and flesh, wrenching screams from her throat. Her agonized screams pierced the arena, and the cheers of the crowd reached a fevered pitch, drowning out her cries of pain. Soon enough, her agonized wails ceased as she was transported to the infirmary. That's horrible, Serorg whispered at the merciless display of violence. Issei, on the other hand, couldn't help but grin as he said, Nice? Serorg stared at him, bewildered. Wah. Examinee Zenobia Korda is deemed unable to continue. Examinee Kuroka is awarded 1 life for winning the combat. Right on cue, Sona's humorless announcement arrived right after, just as Kuroka whizzed back into the front of the huge monitor, walking down the small steps as she kept her dangerous air around her, now that she had shown a semblance of her power. The other students, still on their feet, instinctively gave Kuroka a wide berth, their gazes filled with a mix of awe and caution, mirroring the way they had looked at Issei just 2 battles earlier. Issei remained blissfully unaware of the approaching danger, his attention fixed on Kuroka's captivating Nekisha attributes. Issei, however, remained blissfully oblivious to Kuroka's approach, his attention thoroughly ensnared by her generously endowed Nekisha assets. It took a sudden transformation of those assets into swelling melons to jolt him out of his daze, realizing that the enigmatic girl was now standing right in front of him, peering down at him with eyes that sparkled with mischief. An honest pervert, MMN? She purred, her tone dripping with teasing amusement. Usually, guys would try to perform a vanishing act once I catch them ogling me, Nyan. Issei blinked, caught off guard by her candid response. Meanwhile, Serorg scrambled in his mind to salvage the situation before his friend made things worse. Oh, I'm sorry. It seems that my eyes are easily attracted to your impressive chest rather than you as a person. Too late, it seemed. To his surprise, the woman tittered. So, you're not as plastic as those nobles, she remarked, her amber eyes still twinkling with mischief. I'm not as rich either. Personality matters more than wealth, Nyan, is what I noticed more and more the more days I spent lingering here. Kuroka smiled impishly, sighing, none of your buddies have their heads so far up their asses, no. Issei glanced at both Ingvild and Serorg, suddenly recognizing that they had become a sort of quirky team. He looked back at Kuroka. We're the oddballs in this school. The ones who don't quite fit in anywhere. I'll let you draw your own conclusions. Nyan. Both Serorg and Ingvild stared at Issei with clear confusion. Not because he said what he said, but because how dead and flat he said it. Hey, you don't get to make fun of my tics yet. Nyan. Kuroka joked as she insisted a seat beside Serorg. You three seems weird. Let me in your weird circle. More powerful individuals. Yay! Ingvild giddily clasped her gloved hands, sincerely smiling. Widows unite then, Issei plainly said, remaining skeptical. What's the catch here? Kuroka leaned in with a sly smirk. The catch is that I prefer not to grovel at anyone's feet. You know the saying, surround yourself with people you don't want to punch in the face? Well, you three fit the bill. Though he wholeheartedly agreed with her statement, Issei raised another question. And you don't want to punch us in the face because? 'Cause you are a man-demon who hangs out with a magicless devil and a siren of the enclosed room. Ingvild broadened her innocent eyes at Kuroka's description. Would I be that siren? Yes, darling. It's you, Nyan. Kuroka veered, smiling a smile that wasn't much of a smile, then it was a grin. I heard you. Big ears, see? Her feline ears wiggled playfully, unwittingly increasing Issei's urge to grab them. All I'm gonna say is I'll pay you to sing me a lullaby, Nyan. Thank you? Ingvild muttered quietly, blushing lightly. Oh, but you don't need to pay me. Serorg chimed in, nodding his agreement. She has a point, you know. We'll make the odd quartet, I must say. Kuroka purred, her tone teasing. Odd is interesting, Nyan. And interesting is what I'm looking for. And course I do have a point. She sniffed, looking all smug and appealing, her twin black tails swishing behind her. You're hiya to Issei Ainchan, Nyan? Hi. Issei Nyan. Stop it, that's gross. Kuroka swatted away his words, flicking her cat ears once. It's fine if it's me because I'm cute and part cat, Nyan. You're either of those two. I'll find someone who can shoot gender-bending beam at me and you'll see. That Kuroka paused. I kinda wanna see that being done to this hulking guy. Issei gave the bale a quick once-over. I'll prepare the bleach. Serorg miserably ran his hands over his face, slouching down in a rare display of mild despair. Oh hell, now there's two of them. Having kept quiet so far, Ingvild pushed herself out of her comfort zone and attempted to socialize. I'm Ingvild Leviathan. And nice to meet you, Miss Nekisha. Miss Nekisha raised a sleek black eyebrow. Oh. You're the awkward one, Aincha? It's fine, you're a cutie. Just call me Kuroka, and I'll play nice. She twirled a grin. You're hiya to Issei, and you're Sai. What is it, Naya? Kuroka droned on, her voice sounding like a meow from a feline as her ears flicked. The girl doesn't look that tough. Your buddy's a big guy. A sword to him probably feels like a splinter. Why the oh shit moment? That's yet another holy sword, Ingvild chimed in, her voice carrying the innocent curiosity of a child who had just discovered something fascinating. I never thought I would see two in the same day, in the same hour. God was feeling extra generous, seems like, Issei added, his tone casual as if discussing the weather. Kuroka wasn't one to be ignored, and she made that clear with a frown. Hey, you didn't answer my question. Issei worked his mind for a snappy comeback, idly watching Serorg talking to Irina on the screen, but his snarky brain couldn't find any. It was impossible to force art after all. Sarcasm was the same. Try too hard and it would just end up lame, and try hard why? My friend from high school. Issei shifted on his seat so he could just turn his head around if he wanted to look back at the soon-to-be fight or Kuroka and her Kurokas. He couldn't help but be curious about how she managed to keep everything in place. Excuse me before I go on, but how the hell do you wear that thing without it slipping off your biddies? Kuroka glanced down at the impossibly low neckline of her black kimono, before smirking as she looked back at him. I like it when people stare at these kittens, knowing full well they won't be able to get some, Nyan. Understandable, you love teasing people. You still didn't answer my question. The Nekisha let out an exaggerated sigh as if the answer was obvious, magic, obviously. Issei thought as much. So those weren't some gravity-defying clothes so your chest won't spill. Her amber eyes narrowed slightly as a smug, teasing grin formed on her lips. Only for the fortunate. Fortunate? Fortunate like those people? His eyes darted to a group of nobles nearby who looked like they had just stepped out of a high society magazine. They oozed wealth and opulence. They have a fortune enough for 7 generations. Tell me their dad shits gold and I'll buy it. Maybe they're the 7th generation, Kuroka mused, her gaze drifting over to the nobles. Ingvild, caught between the conversation and the ongoing fight, listened intermittently. It doesn't have anything to do with money. I'm not that cheap, Naya. Well, I am. Well, I am, Issei deadpanned, causing Kuroka to cast a questioning look his way. It was a look that suggested she had met a vast array of individuals but found this one strangely intriguing. You're weirdly interesting, Naya. Of course. I eat rocks on a daily basis. Kuroka s an arcade. Her guts were right, this boy was unique and weirdly funny. Kuroka snickered, appreciating his unique and oddly humorous personality. The trio continued to watch the ongoing battle, blending in with the dozens of other examinees. Laughter rippled through the crowd as Irina loudly proclaimed her intention to cut down Serorg in the name of righteous justice. Kuroka was part of the people, and she turned her attention to Issei for an explanation, clearly baffled by Irina's dramatic declaration. Yes, she's a bit of a Chuyuni, but also not really since she's technically not wrong. Issei described, his eyes focused on his childhood friend and classmates, now fellow examinees, darting towards the incredible bulk. A bit preachy too, but she's not a bad person. Eccentric, more like. Still, what the hell is she doing here? I thought she'd gone to that other uni. What uni? Asked Kuroka, unexpectedly curious. Issei racked his brain for the name of the university Irina had mentioned, but alas, his brain farted, and had decided to go on a coffee break. Probably enjoying a cappuccino. What is it again? This uni's counterpart with heroes and all sorts of other mythical descendant dudes. Ingvild, though knowledgeable about the underworld, wasn't quite as familiar with the overworld, or just plain Earth. She ventured a couple of guesses, her voice tinged with uncertainty. Chaldea? Atlas Academy? I don't know, Issei blurted out. Many of them have A's in their name. Don't think it's Chaldea though, that's in the freezing Arctic and exclusive for mages. Or magus. Whatever they call it. At least Issei knew that much. Not that it said anything much. MMH can't say I've heard about them, Nyan. So Issei explained. Poorly. They're a bunch of rich paranoid dudes who don't want their world to end if there's no sequel. What? Issei simplified his explanation. Extinction bad. Human race preservation good. Technology good. Magic good. Advanced tech infused with magic? Very good. Supernatural spooky, sometimes be bad. Might ruin human future. Normal humans lame, no power. But heroes very cool. Can fight spooky supernaturals with cool swords and flashy magical beams, looking fabulous in their latex suit. Kuroka wasn't amused at the elementary level explanation, as conveyed by her deadpan face. Is he always like this? Nobody answered. Ingvild didn't answer only because Kuroka directed the question to the general public, not her specifically. But that news was what, 3 to 4 years ago? Issei added, leaning back in his chair. Now the secret place is supposed to be an academy for humans who can shoot magic. At least that's what it says on the tin can. You're rather knowledgeable about an allegedly non-existent organization, Mr. Issei, Ingvild remarked. Hey, don't call me a Mr. Sister. Issei told Ingvild, frowning a little. And I wouldn't even heard of it if not for Irina. She mentioned that place is her second choice, and went on about how awesome it is to be there or that other place I can't remember. Kuroka glanced at the chestnut ginger girl, noticing that she was actively on the attack compared to Serorg, almost like how her own fight went against that holy sword-wielder Dash, before looking back at Issei. What's her first choice, Nyan? Issei scratched his head, his frown deepening in frustration. That's what I'm trying to remember. He gestured vaguely as if reaching for the elusive memory. It's on the of my tongue, damn it. Exelica? No, wait, that company went bankrupt. Maybe Extalia? Issei leaned forward, his brows furrowing in concentration. That's what I'm trying to remember. He tapped his temple with a finger, his eyes darting upward in thought. It's on the of my tongue, damn it. Exelica? No, wait, that company went bankrupt. Ingvild gave it another try. Extalia? Probably. See, I told you they all have E's and A's in their name. Extalia did ring a bell, but Issei remained skeptical. He might have mistaken it for an online gaming clan. Kuroka, leaning against the table, resting her kurokas on its flat top, flicked one of her feline ears dismissively. Well, don't look at me, Nyan. Do I look like someone who spouts out random exposition? Issei didn't miss a beat with his retort. Nah, you don't look smart enough. You're more eye-candy-like. He shot her a grin, causing Kuroka to narrow her eyes and pout, though she didn't really mind being the eye-candy part. Sai probably knows better. He can educate us after he beats up my friend or the other way around. Kuroka eyed Issei curiously. And you're okay with that, Nyan? Issei shrugged. It's controlled violence. You can't die in that coliseum even if you lose a limb. It's a legal fight pit, is all I'm saying. Despite his nonchalance, Issei winced as he watched Serorg dodge Irina's slash and then land a gut-wrenching blow to her stomach. Oof. Kuritikura Hito. Didn't expect that one, did she? Seeing Irina slump to the ground, instead of getting worked up about her, Issei found himself more concerned for his devil friend. The hell is he doing? She's downed, just finish her off. Kuroka couldn't help but smirk at Issei's outburst. I thought that girl was your friend. Not when she's in that field, she isn't, Issei clarified firmly. What's in the arena stays in the arena. Isn't that how you trick your mind so you can enjoy this kind of morbid entertainment? Break. The holy sword nicked the skin on Serorg's burly arms, leaving a thin red streak. However, Serorg would never let a tiny scratch bog him down. Nor would he allow the fact that he was fighting a girl to stop him from his goal. After all, he was expected to fight like a beast. A burly, strong, hard-hitting beast with a mean punch. But he refused to fight as a reckless beast. Instead of launching the attack, he remained remarkably calm, gauging the situation, reading the flow of the battle instead of letting it carry him away. He patiently waited for his opponent to charge at him, relying almost exclusively on counterattacks. With precision, he used his palm to deflect the flat side of her blade before seizing opportunities to deliver a well-placed jab or a powerful cross. But she was more wary of him now after she received a direct punch to her gut. Despite her youth, Serorg never underestimated his opponents, regardless of their age or appearance. Holy swords were holy swords, and they posed a threat even to the most formidable devils. Serorg threw a powered haymaker, but Irina leapt away, somersaulting gracefully and even striking a pose as she landed perfectly unharmed. I landed without falling on my head, she declared proudly, hands on her hips, before pointing her blade dramatically at Serorg. Be amazed. Serorg blinked for a moment, then responded with a bemused tone, well, sure, I guess. Mofufufu, all my hard training has paid off, Irina chuckled proudly, though it quickly devolved into coughs, and she spat out a glob of blood. I am practically next to invincible now, she declared dramatically, clutching her stomach as if to keep her insides from staging a rebellion. As is to be expected from an ally of justice, she ended as she wiped away the blood stain off the corner of her lips. I applaud you for that. Serorg smiled, though keeping his guard. Maybe it's time to get serious. I would want nothing less from my opponent, Irina stammered, her smile wavering from his response and his imposing look. In a completely unrelated development, she clutched her stomach again, not wanting another blow from Serorg's rock-hard fists. She's scared, thought most of the audience. Aside from her almost enviable positive vibe, this Irina person was able to keep on fighting after the earlier hit. Serorg might have allowed her to have a moment to breathe, and perhaps he did it just to extend their training session a bit longer. Theoretically, this shouldn't count as looking down on her since she gave him a good spar that he wanted her to stay for a few more. But this didn't seem to last for much longer, as he noticed the panting in her breathing pattern. Irina's once steady breaths had become ragged, and small beads of sweat glistened on her forehead, reflecting the harsh arena lights. With her black-gloved hand, Irina wiped the sweat that was rolling down her cheek, her fingers trembling slightly from the strain. She then tightened her grip on her sword, determination burning in her eyes. Getting tired? Serorg said with a teasing grin, his deep voice carrying across the arena, an indirect way to give her a moment to catch her breath. Come on. I can see you're not giving up yet. Ha, giving up? Me? Never! Irina declared with a fierce determination that surprised even herself. All heroes get their second winds. The blade of her sword glowed with a radiant light, almost as though it was trying to outshine her unwavering spirit. She reared her katana, swinging it gently through the air, leaving behind afterimages that resembled a crescent moon. The arena was filled with the shimmering glow of her holy energy. Sensing danger, Serorg raised his hands and steeled his body, his bulging muscles flexing beneath his skin. Lunar slash! Irina shouted, swerving Excalibur with all her strength, unleashing a bright flash along with a torrent of crescent lights. The holy energy was concentrated into sharp, curved, and dangerous projectiles that streaked toward Serorg. With a satisfied grin, Serorg slammed his fist into the ground, pulverizing the slabs beneath him. The earth erupted in front of him, forming a crude barrier made of rugged earth and stones, a makeshift fortress to fend off Irina's relentless assault. Irina's sanctified projectiles embedded into the dirt, their holy energy colliding with the brute power of Serorg's defense, creating dazzling sparks and shockwaves that sent showers of debris in all directions, painting the arena in chaos. But the earthy pillar proved no match for Irina's determination as she emerged through the gap, her voice a triumphant battle cry that echoed throughout the arena, Hiya! As she brought down her sword, Serorg raised his hands in a defensive stance. The Excalibur mimic transformed its blade, shifting its length to bypass his guard before rapidly extending once more. The holy sword left a fiery red slash on Serorg's chest, tearing through his black shirt and causing immediate, searing pain that coursed through his entire body. Irina continued her assault, moving with the grace of a seasoned warrior, gracefully dancing around the devil's punches as the audience watched in awe and disbelief. Wounds began to appear all over Serorg's colossal frame, and the intense pain from the holy sword scorched his devil flesh. The sword of Excalibur, so holy, yet it stung like hellfire. But growing along with the pain, his adrenaline. His blood surged with newfound vigor, and his lips twisted into a manic grin. The pain was unimaginable, but it was nothing compared to what he had endured throughout his entire life as a devil, compared to being treated as a thorn on the side by his own family. Irina lunged forward, thrusting her Excalibur mimic right through Serorg's chest. A keen smile on her face as the sword sank into his flesh. I admire your resolve, Serorg grinned. To be paired against you has been a blessing. However, her jubilation quickly waned as she realized that she couldn't extract the sword or even lift it up. Serorg had constricted his chest muscles, gripping the blade like a vice, defying the expectations of the crowd as they roared. She ditched her sword in an attempt for a quick escape, yet Serorg quickly grabbed hold of her wrist. Oh crap. But it takes more than pure resolve to defeat me. With a lightning-fast motion, Serorg's fist flashed before her eyes, striking her side with unparalleled force. Her Excalibur stayed embedded in his chest, its blade entwined with his flesh, as its wielder was sent hurtling away. The limestone slabs beneath her shattered from the shockwave, creating a spectacle of destruction and chaos. Irina crashed against the reinforced barrier of the arena with such force that it buckled under the impact, forming a small crater as she lay dazed and groaning in pain. The audience erupted into a deafening roar of cheers and applause, their enthusiasm matching the spectacle of power and resilience they had just witnessed. Serorg stood tall amid the arena, his chest heaving from the exertion, blood trickling from his numerous wounds, but victorious. Irina, on the other hand, lay in a battered heap, her once triumphant spirit now humbled by the sheer might of her opponent. Serorg tugged the holy sword from his chest with a grimace of discomfort, the blade singing like salt on his open wounds. Had his muscles not been like solid steel, it might have torn through him completely. He discarded the blood-stained sword carelessly, treating it like any ordinary blade as it clanged over the floor. Hey, not bad. Irina managed to push herself up with one hand, blood dribbling from her and staining the arena floor as she struggled to regain her footing. Her battered body was a testament to her unyielding spirit. However, her efforts proved futile as her battered form immediately buckled under the weight of her injuries. Bones, both cracked and broken, screamed in protest as she toppled once more, unable to support her weight. Disregarding the metallic taste of the blood pooling in her, Irina muttered weakly through strained breaths. We'll call it a draw. Her voice was barely above a whisper, her breath shallow and labored. She wore a faint smile on her blood-stained lips as the last vestiges of her strength faded away. Her head came to rest on the arena floor, her eyes closing as she succumbed to exhaustion. The announcement from the overhead speakers broke the uproar that had settled over the arena. Examinee Shida Irina is deemed unable to continue. 1 life awarded to examinee Serorg Bale. Then, as the blue-green lights enveloped her form, Irina was carried away from the arena floor. Her disappearance marked the end of the intense battle, and the crowd's ecstatic roar filled the stadium, drowning it in their enthralled excitement. The applause that followed was thunderous, a show of appreciation for the fighters who had given their all in the ring. Serorg took a moment to revel in the glory of the moment. He couldn't help but smile in response to the cheers and applause from the 10,000 spectators. It was a far cry from the ridicule he had faced in the past because of his seemingly meager magical capacity. This newfound recognition felt like a triumph, and he cherished every moment of it. But Serorg was not one to rest on his laurels. He knew that this victory was only the first step on his journey, and premature celebration would do him no good. Still, he couldn't deny the satisfaction that washed over him. Victory tastes sweet. A point was still a point, but damn him if it didn't feel good. His thoughts were momentarily interrupted as magical lights bathed his body. The soft blue glow was as gentle as a lover's embrace, and his wounds vanished almost instantly, as if they had never existed in the first place. It was the magic of the nursing of steel, a welcome respite for his battle-worn body. As Serorg searched for the source of his miraculous healing, he was beamed away from the arena floor, joining his fellow examinees once more. Break. Despite his victory against an Excalibur holder, Serorg couldn't escape the lingering snide looks and judgmental glances from some quarters of the crowd. However, he had long since reached a point where he no longer cared about the opinions of others. Back at his group seating area, Issei observed the burly man approaching them with a calm demeanor. Serorg's torn shirt revealed a significant portion of his well-defined chest and powerful physique. "Nice going, Mr. Fanservice. You just beat up a teenage girl," Issei remarked, extending a curled fist in what was meant to be a gesture of greeting and appreciation among cultured men. To Issei's horror, Serorg, looking visibly confused, wrapped his giant hand around Issei's fist, resulting in an awkward and unexpected handshake. "That did not just happen," Issei muttered, looking at the uncultured Bale in the repugnance of a shitlord as Serorg sat himself next to Kuroka. She congratulated him in her own unique way, which was by making sure Serorg was fully aware he had beaten up a girl until he couldn't feel proud about it anymore. Meanwhile, Issei turned to Ingvild, who was sitting next to him, and said, "Remind me to never fist bump with him." Ingvild, who was unfamiliar with the concept of a fist bump, asked, "What's a fist bump?" Issei proceeded to demonstrate, saying, "You first make a fist." Ingvild followed suit. "Now do what I did earlier." Issei extended his fist. Ingvild followed his instructions, forming a clenched fist. Issei ended his demonstration by unceremoniously bumping their fists together. Thus, a fist bump was born. "Oh!" Ingvild's auburn eyes lit up with fascination. She lightly bounced up and down on her seat, clearly intrigued by the peculiar but oddly pleasing interaction they had just experienced. "What tradition is this?" "Human tradition." Oh, Ingvild muttered, her gaze fixed on her fist as if it held the secrets of the universe, completely mesmerized by the simple act. Kuroka purred, "You're so cute I want to put you in my pocket Nyan." Serorg, ever the practical one, pointed out, "Your clothes have no pockets." The cat girl responded with a suggestive smirk, "They do when you're a woman." Serorg rolled his eyes, clearly unimpressed. "All right. Wholesomeness, ruined," he deadpanned. As Kuroka tittered in her amusement, using a spangle of her magic to restore the Bale's torn outfit, Issei decided to revisit the earlier topic the group had been discussing. "Say, what's the more heroic counterpart of this university again?" he restarted. Serorg raised an eyebrow in confusion. "Come again?" "This university's rival or something like that," Issei elaborated. "You know, where those heroes go." "You mean Extalia?" Serorg clarified. Issei crossed his arms, contemplating. "I don't know. Is it? Do people go there to become heroes so they can someday beat us up?" Serorg chuckled, cracking his neck slightly. The earlier healing had treated his wounds, but he still felt a bit sore. More or less. It's branded as the Academy for Heroes for a reason. Atlanta. Jean d'Arc. Please rise to the arena. The announcement echoed through the arena, and all heads turned to see the next combatants. Serorg squinted his eyes in recognition. "HM? Aren't they those heroes?" he remarked. "They have strange names, so it's likely Nyan," Kuroka muttered. "Janu Daruku? Jan Nyo. I bit my tongue, damn it." Issei, attempting to access the depths of his knowledge hiding inside his beef brain, recalled tidbits from his Crusader King's gaming days. "Jean? Joan of Arc? She's supposed to be a brunette, right? Didn't she get burned at the stake and then branded a saint?" "Well, she looks pretty alive to me," Kuroka replied, eyeing the red mark on her tongue with a pout, and then casting her gaze at the girl as she confidently marched towards the teleporter. Kuroka had noticed this girl earlier. It was hard not to. She was the only examinee wearing a dark coat adorned with black furs, exuding an air of rebellion and aloofness as she distanced herself from the other examinees. "You heard of her?" Serorg asked his fellow devil. Ingvild, with her innocence radiating like a beacon, shook her head, her light lavender hair flowing gracefully. "I'm unfamiliar with human histories." "Ah, is that so?" Serorg responded. "It's rather difficult to spare time for history when I was told to familiarize myself with other tomes," Ingvild explained with sincerity. "Hey! I read," Serorg defended himself against Issei's teasing. For a bit. Issei and Kuroka couldn't help but smirk at Serorg's response. "Sure, beef brain," Issei retorted playfully. Ingvild interjected, "I think knowing the basis upon which various magics rely can be useful in finding ways to counter them effectively." "Hard to do that when you can't fire off any magic." "There's still an effective way to counter it too, Mr. Serorg," Ingvild replied confidently. Serorg raised a single eyebrow, intrigued. "Oh? Go on then, enlighten me." As Ingvild began to explain various magical concepts and how to counter them through physical means, Issei's mind was still consumed by thoughts of the mysterious girl. His confusion levels reached new heights as he pondered various aspects of human history and its potential ties to this world. However, he decided not to delve too deeply into the matter, as he simply didn't care enough to be about it. Adding to his uncertainty was the enigmatic arrival of these heroes. Maybe they were summoned, reincarnated by some devil, or someone gave their souls so they could take over their body. He wasn't sure. Issei opted to withhold judgment until more information surfaced. Issei couldn't resist letting his imagination run wild about the mysterious girl's background. He conjectured that perhaps her parents were die-hard history buffs who were head over heels for tales of the Maid of Orleans. It was a plausible explanation, but it still didn't clarify why someone named after a Catholic figure would be participating in an entrance exam in the underworld. Maybe the passage of time had brought about some quirky career changes. A pale light enveloped the girl that shared the name with a historical figure's body, radiating an eerie energy that transformed her outfit into a suit of mail. It was a dark indigo, as if she had just been knighted by the nighttime sky. "Ooh, looky. Armor, Nyan," Kuroka chimed in. Issei, however, couldn't get past the bizarre headgear the girl was sporting. "What's that weird thing on her head?" "It's head armor, most likely," Serorg explained. "Yeah, no shit, dude," Issei grumbled. "But how does it stay there and not fall?" "Magic, probably," Kuroka replied bluntly. Issei conceded in defeat, realizing there was no arguing with magic logic. "Well, I can't argue against that." Ingvild, on the other hand, was utterly captivated by the spectacle. "Wow! How cool, can you convince her to join us?" "You kiddin' me? I feel like I'm gonna get a paper cut just from looking at her," Kuroka quipped, continuing her commentary. "What's a hero doing here, Nyan? I thought they were the ones getting caught by those gamers." "Beats me," Issei shrugged, his gaze shifting to the other girl. Meanwhile, the hero cast a challenging, almost sneering smirk at her future opponent. Atlanta's eyes remained undeterred and fearless. While some may have assumed that these two had a history of animosity, no one could say for sure. Compared to her, Atlanta's opponent seemed rather lacking in the armor department. She sported a gorgeous verdant green dress that was hardly suitable for battle. But then again, Issei had witnessed two holy sword wielders duking it out in skin-tight outfits that looked more like swimsuits than proper battle attire. In a world as fantastical as this one, why bother with logical thinking? As the two contestants were beamed away to the arena, Serorg rubbed his neck, pondering aloud, "Is the other one a hero too?" "A heroine, I guess." But isn't she one of your kind? Kuroka raised an eyebrow with a semi-dirty look. He? What's that supposed to mean? And nah, I'm not sure what she is. She took a couple of sniffs but couldn't discern much amidst the overwhelming cloud of rich perfumes and colognes. Beastkin or something. A new species, perhaps. You know how humans love playing with genetics, Nyan. They even tried to replicate my species. Saror ad-libbed, well, being a yokai, I'd expect you to know more. If it ain't related to me, I couldn't care less, Nyan. Issei nodded agreeingly. Why should it matter if it's not related to you in any way? Kuroka smirked, appreciative. This guy gets it. Ingvild entered a state of deep pondering, assessing their relatively self-centered outlook on life despite the two's recent conversation didn't have that kind of weight in it. Ingvild didn't know that because she rarely conversed with others of her age. Why do you ask about Extalia again? The Baori asked. Funny of you to get interested in things like this Academy's main rivals. Issei raised an eyebrow, as if ridiculed by his question. Well, Sarorg, we're just naturally curious creatures. It's in our DNA, like the urge to ask for extra cheese on your pizza. Once Issei received his desired reaction, Sarorg's annoyed look, Kuroka's amused chuckling, and Ingvild's bewildered stare as she contemplated the cheesy predicament, Issei continued. Well, because the girl you just beat up wanted to go there. Sarorg, puzzled, asked, how come you know that? Don't tell me you read minds now. Before answering, however, Issei left his seat, causing Kuroka's ears to perk up. Where you goin', Nyan? Vivi hasn't done her testing yet. And just like that, it was established that Ingvild's nickname among the group would be Vivi. Issei replied bluntly, my friend just got whacked. Should probably check on her. Oh ho? You're unexpectedly a softed, Nyan. I kinda dig it, Naya. Is this a Gap thing you Japs say, Gap? Sarorg and Ingvild exchanged a confused look at yet another unfamiliar term. You're a Jap too, Issei pointed out. And yes, I am very soft and cuddly on the inside despite my prickly surface. He dismissively said as he, much to his dismay, had to go on to look for Sona. She should know where Irina was treated. Sarorg furrowed his brows, watching Issei's retreating form as he headed toward the announcer's room. He turned to Kuroka for clarification. His friend? Aha. Kuroka's twin black tails flicked with mild interest. She was curious about Issei's chestnut-haired friend, but her attention quickly returned to the upcoming battle. She noticed the girl had conjured a black-bladed sword, while the other had donned a black bow. Oh, this is gonna be good. Which friend? Sarorg asked, somewhat confused. The one you just beat up, Ingvild replied with a light-hearted tone. Oh, Sarorg suddenly realized the possibility of him hurting Issei's feelings, and it made him a bit uneasy. He tried to lighten the mood with humor. Well, I guess I should be ready for a soft and cuddly talk with him later then. Kuroka gave him a dirty look. EW. Break. Thousands of spectators filled the arena, their attention laser-focused on the clash between two heroines. Jean, Atlanta addressed, summoning her great bow to her grip. If it's retribution you seek, aren't you in the wrong place? Don't bother getting friendly with me, Atlanta, Jean replied, unsheathing her sword. She inspected the dark violet blade, her lips forming a cruel smirk as she imagined adding the huntress blood to the already dark hue. Not hard to see you have your own story as to why you are here, but frankly, I don't care enough. So instead, all I say to you is this: fancy beating you here. As the two heroines clashed on the screen behind him, engaging in a flashy battle that rivaled those in anime, Issei idly thought that it was a good thing he didn't have to face either of them, as that meant he probably had to do more than his little illusions. Although an archer and a swordsman would make for an interesting matchup, he had his priorities, skewed as they might be from time to time. Issei ventured into a different hallway this time, heading west after seeing Sona walking in that direction before the matches started. Maybe he could find the bathroom there too if he was lucky. He wasn't. But it didn't take long for him to reach the announcer's room, which, unsurprisingly, had a guard stationed outside to ensure that no smart-ass students like him could enter without supervision. Issei didn't mind the oversight, as he had no intention of debating academy rules with that humorless devil. He was there to ask a simple question, and he knew just a lapdog who could answer it. Hey, it's Saji boy. His former schoolmate, now university mate, turned his head around, and immediately, His expression soured, and his shoulders slumped. If Ritter could make either him or this person disappear, that would be great. Ah shit, why does it have to be you? Issei opened his arms in mock innocence. What? I come with the intention of peace. Yeah? Doesn't it sound strange how peace never lasts whenever you're around Hayadu? Hayadu? Issei raised his brow, maintaining his cock smile. I thought we're already on first-name basis. You hurt me, Genshiru. Saji didn't need this. Why, God? Why? He sighed and muttered, just get to the point. I'm busy. Issei glanced at the long, empty red-carpeted hallway. Ah, the guardian of the hallway. A noble calling, indeed. Protecting it from errant dust particles and rogue tumbleweeds, I presume? Within minutes, Issei had successfully induced Saji to face spasm in exasperation. Congratulations on achieving your lifelong dream, my friend, being Sona's human chair. It's a job that demands endurance and sitting. At least I have a dream, Saji replied with a roll of his eyes. He knew he shouldn't. This was a mistake. He shouldn't feel this sarcastic gnome. This was a terrible mistake. He shouldn't try to outsnark this caveman. But alas, Saji's resolve was weak. I had dreams too, you know. Once, Issei began with an overdramatic flair, as if he'd just learned about the demise of his dog. Until I found out that Santa Claus wasn't real. Crushed my festive spirit. A long dreary exhale of a sigh as Saji felt his spirit starting to leave him. You've got to be kidding me. But Issei was on a roll. I mean, think about it. A jolly old man breaking into houses to deliver gifts? Sounds like a criminal mastermind. And what's with the flying reindeer? Is Santa secretly running a reindeer racing ring? Look. You're seriously gonna make me cry. Just tell me what you want so you'll leave me alone. A sweet, sweet victory. This was almost as satisfying as bending down that Koreana chick. Not as cathartic, unfortunately. Perhaps because this way was less violent, though arguably almost as effective in disgracing one's sanity. But Issei wasn't here to torture his friend verbally. All I need to know is how to get to the infirmary. You know, for all those chimney-related injuries. Saji shook his head with a resigned smile. Follow the hallway down, take a left, and you'll see it. Now go before I regret helping you. Issei gave him an exaggerated salute. Aye, Captain. Thanks for the directions. I promise to stay off the rooftops from now on. Go blind. With a triumphant evil snicker, almost a neighing Nihei, Issei proceeded along the hallway. Tell her she did well, Saji then said. Relaying messages will charge you $20. You then. You. I can tell her that one for free. Saji immediately regretted his words, and considered banging his head against the wall until he fell down unconscious. Break. The infirmary was impossible to miss, thanks to its high-tech blue sign hanging from the ceiling with a red cross proudly displaying the Lucifash logo. Issei couldn't help but think they should have added a little jazz music to set the mood. As the auto doors slid open with a futuristic swoosh, Issei stepped into a world of white. It was so blindingly bright that he considered looking for a pair of shades in the hospital gift shop. Not 5 steps inside, he was greeted by a screen embedded in the wall that reminded him of an ATM. Except this ATM apparently moonlighted as a virtual concierge. Good afternoon. How may I be of your assistance? Issei blinked. He had never met an ATM so polite before. This one even came with its own holographic assistant, dressed in what could only be described as a high-end maid outfit. She held a regal and ready posture like that of a maid. Last he checked, the devils were made maniacs, so that was probably the reason why this girl had a maid uniform instead of a nurse. Perhaps the underworld had a thing for mixing hospitality with high fashion. Yes. Alexa, I'd like to visit my friend. The holographic woman remained composed. Certainly, young master. Who do you wish to visit? Issei decided to play along. I wish to visit Shido Irena, he announced with a flourish, as if he were auditioning for a role in a period drama. Miss Irena can be found resting in room 1004, first corridor to the left. Please note you are under constant surveillance. Have a nice day, young master. Issei's frown deepened. Had he just received a polite threat from a hologram? He followed the instructions without fail, mainly because he had the rare ability to use his brain for navigation. He passed several other doors, each bearing a quaint medieval design with small windows despite its futuristic material. He wondered if the hospital staff here dressed up as knights and wizards for fun, except the knights were dressed in spacey outfits, and the wizards used laser rifles instead of their traditional staff, spamming their spell, "I cast gun." Once he arrived in front of room 1004, he faced yet another obstacle. The door didn't have any handles to tug, push, or slide. This hospital's idea of accessibility was more advanced than he'd anticipated. After a moment of perplexity, the door magically glided open, reinforcing the impression that he had just entered a high-tech, high-security prison.L. The room itself, however, seemed relatively normal, or as normal as one could expect in the underworld. It featured a grandiose hospital bed that he wouldn't mind taking a nap on, a flat-screen LED TV with enough channels to rival the overworld's cable providers, and a mini-fridge conveniently placed bedside. There was even a comfy-looking sofa for visitors, cupboards for storage, and another door that he could only assume led to the bathroom. "Hey! You're not dead," Issei quipped upon seeing Irina. "Oh! Ikken!" Irina brightened, using the affectionate nickname she'd coined for him. Issei blinked, momentarily regretting his decision. "Please. I'm okay with idiot, but never that." "What's wrong with it?" "Ikken sounds cute," Irina defended earnestly, her violet eyes locked onto him as he pulled a one-seater sofa closer to her bed. He made sure to maneuver the four stand out of the way since she wasn't using it anyway. "So cute it upsets my stomach," Issei retorted as he got comfortable on the seat, casually lifting one leg over the other before inspecting her. Irina's usually testament to her fatigue. Her normally twin-tailed hair hung freely around her shoulders. She was no longer in her skin-tight battlesuit, but rather a soft blue hospital robe. While Issei didn't spot any visible wounds on her, he knew that her presence in the hospital meant they couldn't just miraculously heal her fatigue. Despite being giddy from his unexpected and quick visit, Irina puckered her lips and sank back into her bed, covering her face in frustration. "Awa, this S. How could my debut battle end in a shameful defeat? Awa, this S. How could my debut battle end in shameful defeat? Hey, don't be so hard on yourself. Even the best heroes lose a round or two before they become legends. Losing is a part of it, and such. You learn more about yourself when you lose. You'll get them next time. And all that heroic jazz," Issei said wisely, evidently not helping much since he received a pouty look from Irina. Irina shot him a pouty look. "Easy for you to say, Mr. 10 Seconds winner." "Damn right. It's good to be a winner," he joked. "Sides, it's not you that edition. You just got raffled against a walking condensed muscle taking the form of a man. I mean, your sword literally stuck on his chest." Thinking about it, Irina snickered. "Oh yeah, that's just like the Excalibur legend." Except there's no water tart distributing magical swords." "Language?" Irina chimed in mock admonishment, wagging a finger playfully. "I'm still a servant of God, remember?" That creased his eyebrows. "Right, a servant of God in the depths of hell. You must be on a mission to convert the demons or something. Why are you here, is what I'm asking." "No better place to find demons than their very nest," Irina said with a smug face. "Still think I'm a pest, huh?" "Not what I meant." Irina shot up, then immediately regretted it as she clutched her side. "Oh well." Seeing her wince only solidified Issei's resolve to never challenge someone like Serorg to a brawl. "So what are you doing here? Thought you're going to join those heroes." Irina's smile was fleeting, and Issei couldn't help but notice that the once blazing fire of her spirit had dimmed to mere embers, flickering weakly in the winds of uncertainty. "I kinda had a change of plans," she said, scratching her jaw with a mix of nervousness and despondency. "Heroes must be adaptable, you know?" "Changed plans, you say? Did God accidentally double-book you for a church event and the hero entrance exam?" Issei quipped, trying to lighten the mood. She didn't laugh at his jest. Instead, she let out a sigh and muttered, "I wish." He was genuinely surprised she hadn't enrolled in either of those academies, given her connections to the Catholic Church. Issei genuinely wondered why she hadn't enrolled in either of those academies, given her strong ties to the Catholic Church. It was all the more surprising. "This ain't no place for a hero," they probably would say. "But this is a university. Be whatever the you want," Issei mused, a hint of irreverence in his voice. Hey! Language! Irina snapped, but her spirited response seemed to rekindle the fading embers, and she was kinda happy about it. Well, more than kinda, but she didn't show it yet. Hee, you've changed a lot, Iken. I remember you used to try and sneak around the kendo girls' changing room. Not just the kendo girls, actually, Issei replied, unabashed as he received the well-deserved glare. What? If not for me and my buddies, the school would never have become pervert-proof. Irina shook her head, her laughter bubbling up as she looked further into her past before it went wrong. I still can't believe you thought I was a guy. Issei, now leaning forward, folded his hands defensively. Alright, look. I get that people can change a lot in the course of 10 to 13 years. Pardon me for not expecting you to change your frickin' gender. I've always been a girl. Irina pouted, her frown combining the efforts of both her eyes and lips. And language? We're in hell. Stop enforcing your ideals. We're not 10 anymore, Issei retorted without missing a beat. Yeah? Well, Irina attempted to mount a counter-argument to that 3-hit combo of solid reality checks, but the lingering pain and her own brain worked against her. So she resorted to her reliable self-defense, a very puffy pout. Humph. You're stupid. Issei remained unfazed by her pouting. He sighed instead. I can't believe I'm gonna have to spend the next years trapped around you again. Her cheeks reddened, and soon her face became equally as red. Issei, enjoying his small victory, let out an amused huff. He reclined further in his chair, casually removing his sneakers and propping his feet up on her bed. With a flick of his hand, he summoned his cell phone via teleportation, a handy trick he'd equipped all his necessities, including his wallet and phone, for moments like this. He showed no signs of leaving as he busied himself with his phone. Irina slowly began to realize why he was here, extending his visit beyond the typical get-well-soon gesture. He wasn't just ensuring her physical recovery, he was providing her with a target for her frustrations, someone to direct her pent-up emotions towards instead of wallowing in self-blame. This wasn't the first time either. When her kendo team had faced defeat in her last tournament, where she was the sole victor while the rest stumbled, Irina had to put on a brave front for her club members. Especially so as she was their captain. She kept her spirits high for her other friends, knowing that their positive outlook would help lift the dejected club members. But with him, there was no need for pretenses. He could read her like an open book. Irina just remembered how his shirt had become a soggy mess from her tears and snot when she'd let it all out on him. Unbeknownst to him, he had not only reignited her spirit and mood with his presence but had also inadvertently stirred up feelings she had long thought buried and forgotten. These emotions were beginning to resurface, and Irina found herself in uncharted territory, unsure of how to handle them. She couldn't blame him either. He was just being his usual self. And she was just an unexpected casualty. Irina pulled the sheets up to her face as she turned away from him, hugging a body pillow. You can leave, you know. I saw your new friends. Heck, you fought one of them, Issei replied nonchalantly, his attention still on his phone as he read the synopsis of a movie. And lost. HNGGGGG, unhelpful. Go away. I'll do that when you're asleep. Irina feigned a gasp. Are you planning to watch me sleep? Yes. Sometimes, Irina wished he could sound a little bit more jovial even when he was spouting blatant lies. But if he did, would he still be the same person? You're a creep. I'm a weirdo. Silence. What the hell am I doing here? More silence. Awkward one. And out of nowhere, Issei started bobbing his head, half singing, I don't belong here, in a voice that was far from spectacular. It was neither gritty nor smooth, and no one would be falling head over heels for it. But that was the thing about Issei. People often tried to make him into something more, something extraordinary, when in reality, he was already pretty special in his own way. Hiding her smile and pushing aside those thoughts, Irina closed her eyes, succumbing to the comforting rhythm of his peculiar off-tune rendition of the song. Oh yeah? Remember that promise you made? Promise HMM? Promise? Her heart almost exploded. Her eyes shot open, and Irina rolled over to see him. WH what? What promise? So, you don't remember, huh? Normally it's the heroine who nags the main character about some promise they make when they were kids. So you're the main character. Irina lowered her eyelids, feigning indifference. She said that, but she secretly relished the idea of being the heroine, especially if it meant her story wouldn't turn into some chaotic harem show, but nonsensical things like that should be the least of her worries. I'll help you remember, he casually said as he held out an empty palm. Irina scrutinized his light brownish palm, her heart racing with anticipation and imagination running wild. It had nothing on it. What's this? What is it? Irina asked, bewildered. My 100 yen you borrowed for a popsicle. Huh! You promised me you'll pay it. Instead of a settled debt, Issei received a pillow to the face. Thanks for watching this video. If you really enjoy this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. Don't forget to support and follow the DanzyDanz for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story, link in the description. See you in the next video. Goodbye.